Naruto God Level System, Chapter 181 to 200. Chapter 181 The Golden Wheel is Reborn. Gamamaru, it's not like you are so panicked. I remember when I faced my mother, I never saw you so scared. Otsutsuki Hagoromo's voice came from behind Gamamaru. Gamamaru, long time no see. Another voice came, greeting Gamamaru. Are you Otsutsuki Hamura? Gamamaru twisted around to look at Otsutsuki Hamura, and at the same time heaved a sigh of relief. This time may be saved. As long as a few of them join hands, Hyuga-chen can't believe it. Otsutsuki Hamura, ha ha ha, is it all here? Hyuga-chen laughed wildly. A guy who was beaten to death by him can make waves when he comes. Don't talk nonsense, come and help me, I can't hold on anymore. The White Snake Immortal shouted. Hearing that there is going to be a chat over there, he was very injured by being pressed and beaten by the clone. After the White Snake Immortal shouted, a wooden dragon bit his neck and frantically absorbed his chakra. The White Snake Immortal turned into countless small snakes, escaped the bite of the wooden dragon, and fought recklessly with the wooden clone again. Although Immortal White Snake said it was serious, he was indeed pressed and beaten, but to say it was dangerous, it was not too dangerous. Otsutsuki Hagoromo and the others ignored the White Snake Immortal. Otsutsuki Hagoromo rescued Senju Piraeus and Uchiha Tobu first, which are two powerful fighting forces. Then Otsutsuki Hagoromo turned into an afterimage and disappeared. His body appeared in front of Hyuga-chen in the blink of an eye, and his fist wrapped in chakra hit Hyuga-chen's chest. Hyuga-chen uses Yomatsu Hirasaka to open a black cave and instantly leave Otsutsuki Hagoromo's attack range. Otsutsuki Hagoromo didn't hit Hyuga-chen with this blow, but hit the ground. The power was like a nuclear bomb washing the ground, and the ground was punched into a huge hole. You actually know Yomatsu Hirasaka. Otsutsuki Hagoromo frowned and looked ugly. Yomatsu Hirasaka is the ultimate space ninjutsu. It can travel in any space and can be activated instantly. It is definitely the strongest in space ninjutsu. Kamui, Hiraishin and Tenshiri are the three space ninjutsu that cannot be compared with Yomatsu Hirasaka at all. Otsutsuki Hagoromo himself does not know this technique, but his younger brother Otsutsuki Hamura knows it. Hyuga-chen shrugged. In fact, his space teleportation was better than Yomatsu Hirasaka. Hamura, the opponent is tough, don't keep your hands. Otsutsuki Hagoromo said. Otsutsuki Hamura nodded and didn't speak. Maybe the two brothers had a good relationship in the past, but not now. Otsutsuki Hamura also used Yomatsu Hirasaka, appeared behind Hyuga Tatsu, and stabbed with the sharp blade of Gudodama Truth-Seeking Ball. Time stands still. The leaves flying in the air stopped in midair, and the fight between the wooden clone and the White Snake Immortal in the distance was still, and the whole world was extremely quiet. By the way, this is the second time I've used time stop on you. Hyuga-chen slowly turned around and looked at Otsutsuki Hamura, who used Yomatsu Hirasaka's sneak attack. It's boring. It's a pity to kill you like this. I still want to see you struggle. Hyuga-chen kicked Otsutsuki Hamura back with one kick, releasing the time standstill. Looking at Otsutsuki Hamura, who flew back upside down and smashed into the ground, Otsutsuki Hagoromo and Gamamaru both had confused expressions on their faces. Don't talk about the two of them anymore. Otsutsuki Hamura himself was very confused. He couldn't figure out what was going on. Why did he suddenly fly back upside down? However, his vigilance towards Hyuga-chen had already risen to the top, and the moves were so strange that he had never seen or heard of them before. Everyone has not thought about the ability of time in their hearts, and they dare not think about it. The two Otsutsuki brothers all looked at Hyuga-chen with solemn expressions, not daring to attack again. You've all attacked so many times, isn't it my turn? Hyuga-chen smiled lightly, and a dark blue chakra rose from his body, wrapping Hyuga-chen. What? Tenseigen chakra mode. Feeling the familiar breath, Otsutsuki Hamura paled in shock. What Tenseigen chakra pattern? Otsutsuki Hagoromo looked at his younger brother suspiciously. Otsutsuki Hamura did not speak, his body was tense, and he was extremely alert. He didn't mean to introduce Tensagen to Otsutsuki Hagoromo, their relationship is not so friendly now, it's not an exaggeration to say that they are enemies. Seeing that Otsutsuki Hamura didn't say anything, Otsutsuki Hagoromo was secretly angry in his heart, and at the same time transformed into a shield with Gudodama, truth-seeking ball, and became alert, a move that shocked his younger brother. How could it be simple? The golden wheel is reborn. The golden lightsaber slashed, and the shield formed by Otsutsuki Hagoromo with Gudodama, truth-seeking ball, was instantly cut in half. There was a slight panic in Otsutsuki Hagoromo's eyes. He used Susanoo to protect himself, and at the same time used Rinnegan's repulsive force to resist the golden wheel's rebirth explosion. The mighty Susanoo is the same as the paper one, and Otsutsuki Hagoromo's repulsive force can't resist the golden wheel reincarnation. Fortunately, this also bought Otsutsuki Hagoromo some time to avoid the attack of the golden wheel, but he still had an arm cut off. However, this is not a problem for Otsutsuki Hagoromo, it is just an arm, it will grow back in a moment, and the resilience of the Six Paths level is so awesome. Otsutsuki Hamura knew the power of the golden wheel to reincarnate, and when Otsutsuki Hagoromo resisted, he used Yomatsu Hirasaka to avoid it. But Gamamaru, the old toad, is miserable. Although his speed is not slow, it is still not as fast as the speed of the golden wheel. In Gamamaru's terrified eyes, the golden wheel was reincarnated and flashed past. The rich golden light was the last seen in Gamamaru's consciousness. The golden reincarnation blast cut Gamamaru in half, and left an abyss that was several kilometers deep on the ground and could not see the edge. Seeing Gamamaru killed, Hyuga-chen manipulated the root of the divine tree, wrapped around Gamamaru's corpse that was divided in two, and absorbed the chakra and vitality that had not dissipated in his body. That big toad is dead, you stinky snake, don't struggle anymore. Hyuga-chen suddenly turned his head and looked at the white snake fairy. Immortal White Snake's expression was sluggish, and her movements stopped. With a thud, her huge body fell to the ground and was bound by the branches of the divine tree. What? This is demonic illusion. Otsutsuki Hagoromo couldn't believe it, unable to imagine that the White Snake Immortal was actually taken over by a demonic illusion. White Snake Immortal is immune to infinite Tsukuyomi, so it can be seen that the White Snake Immortal's resistance to demonic illusion is actually brought down by a look. Otsutsuki Hagoromo thought it was a joke. But this is indeed a fact. Hyuga-chen's ultimate demonic illusion is infinitely reincarnated. As long as there is no more than 10 times the mental power of Hyuga-chen, it is impossible to break free. If Hyuga-chen releases one on Otsutsuki Hagoromo, Otsutsuki Hagoromo will also kneel. Senior Six Paths, what should I do? Senju Pingba came to Otsutsuki Hagoromo's side and asked anxiously. His body was covered with bruises, and even the powerful recovery ability of Sage Body could not recover for a while. Otsutsuki Hagoromo's face is ugly. You ask me what to do, I want to ask you. I really think of me as an omnipotent god. Chapter 182 80 Gods Vacuum Attack. These 80 gods vacuum attack. It's time for you two dicks to fall, otherwise I'll be an eyesore. Hyuga-chen took a step by step, walking towards Senju and Uchiha Tobu. Ah, go to hell, Uchiha Tobu shouted, using the power of the sky to come to Hyuga-chen, and hit Hyuga-chen's head with the palm of his hand. Hyuga-chen tilted his head just to avoid Uchiha Tobu's attack, and then a malicious smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. With a billion volts of lightning wrapped around his hands, he used the Gentle Fist method and 8 trigrams 361 to perform a Gentle Fist and electrotherapy attack on Uchiha Tobu. In less than a second, Hyuga-chen had finished the 8 trigrams 361, and even the two brothers Otsutsuki Hagoromo could not see the speed of Hyuga-chen's shot. The extremely fast attack speed made the air burst into electric sparks. Even Otsutsuki Hagoromo couldn't see the speed of the shot, and Uchiha Tobu couldn't even see it. After Hyuga-chen's attack was over, Uchiha Tobu fell backwards with wide eyes. Seeing this, Hyuga Chen quickly digs out his Rinnegan, and then enters his own Tensagen space. Boom! Uchiha Tobu's body exploded into blood mist, and the huge Thunder Light Jinchuriki column shot up into the sky, and then exploded with a bang, and the deafening sound could be heard tens of thousands of kilometers away. A huge mushroom cloud rose up from the earth, and those who didn't know it thought that they had lost a nuclear weapon. No, it's more powerful than nuclear weapons. Except for the two brothers, Otsutsuki Hagoromo, who avoided the attack embarrassingly, Senju Harama had been wiped to ashes by the thunder. There was a bottomless hole in the earth in a radius of thousands of miles was in tatters, and even the sacred tree kept emitting black smoke. Cough cough. Otsutsuki Hagoromo coughed up a few mouthfuls of blood, and his clothes smelled like a beggar. Otsutsuki Hamura wasn't much better either, because it was so sudden that the attack had enveloped him before he could use Yomatsu Hirasaka to avoid it. After everything was over, Hyuga Chen came out of the space, looked at the ground where the electric sparks were still burning, and smashed his tongue. Even he was surprised by this power. The attack power of the Thunder Fruit is really awesome. The Thunder Fruit has been developed by Hyuga Chen to 1,000,000,000 volts, which is much stronger than Analu. Before, Hyuga Chen continuously compressed 1,000,000,000 volts of voltage into Uchiha Tobu's body, and then let all these forces explode in an instant. The power of this explosion surprised Hyuga Chen. Isn't this the Six Paths Fairy? Isn't it the creator of order? How can you be a beggar now? Hyuga-chan mocked the Six Paths Fairy. The villain is successful, Otsutsuki Hagoromo said with a gloomy face. Huh, the villain is successful, say what you want. Anyway, I'm not a Kunzi. Hyuga-chan smiled casually. A dying man, will Hyuga-chan have the same knowledge as him? Of course. Yes, dare to call him a villain, Hyuga-chan will definitely let him die with a sense of rhythm. A flash of light, Hyuga-chan appeared in front of Otsutsuki Hagoromo, and punched him in the old face. Otsutsuki Hagoromo's reaction was not slow, and when Hyuga-chan was about to punch him in the face, he raised his hand to resist Hyuga-chan's fist and protected his face. Hyuga-chan's fists tightly with both hands, Otsutsuki Hagoromo's old face turned to Yuhi's incomparable expression. This power was so powerful that he felt like he was wrestling with ancient monsters. Hyuga Chen smiled slightly, and then hit Otsutsuki Hagoromo's stomach with the other hand. Otsutsuki Hagoromo's eyes popped, and a mouthful of blood spewed out of his mouth, feeling that his internal organs were shattered by the punch. Hit Otsutsuki Hagoromo's stomach shone with golden light, and the huge laser Jinchuriki column penetrated Otsutsuki Hagoromo's body. Otsutsuki Hagoromo left the flying body and backed away, and then spit out a mouthful of blood again with a wow sound, supporting his feet hard to keep himself from falling. This time, Otsutsuki Hagoromo was seriously injured, and all his internal organs were burnt by golden flashes, and ordinary people would have already died. However, Otsutsuki Hagoromo is not an ordinary person. Such an injury looks scary, but it is not fatal to him. The vitality of the Six Paths level is so pervert. Seeing the tragic appearance of his elder brother, Otsutsuki Hamura hesitated, then opened a cave in the air, trying to escape. Hyuga Chen also saw his intention, and the gravitational force of the palm erupted like a black hole, pulling him back before Otsutsuki Hamura entered the cave. If you want to escape with Yomatsu Hirasaka, how easy is it to leave Tensagen behind? Hyuga Chen said coldly. Too deceiving. Otsutsuki Hamura roared, and punched Hyuga Chen with both fists. In terms of physical skills, he was even stronger than Otsutsuki Hagoromo. The face of Otsutsuki Hamura's attack, Hyuga Chen was like a leaf, flying with Otsutsuki Hamura's attack. Even though Otsutsuki Hamura's attack speed was beyond the limits of the human body, he still couldn't touch the corner of Hyuga-chan's clothes. Otsutsuki Hamura felt a little suffocated. This feeling of gathering all the strength, but hitting the empty space every time, was really uncomfortable. 80 Gods Vacuum Attack. Otsutsuki Hamura yelled, using this ultimate esoteric art of attack and defense. Ha tilde, Hyuga-chen laughed mockingly, and then said, let you see my 80 gods vacuum attack. Hyuga-chen's 80 gods vacuum attack, and Otsutsuki Hamura's 80 gods vacuum attack. The ground shook and the wind raged, and Otsutsuki Hagoromo hurriedly shielded himself with Gudodama, truth-seeking ball, looking up at the collision in the sky. Countless huge fists collided together, and each punch was a sure kill blow, and there was no space for a mouse to escape. There was a constant roar from the sky, and the divine tree in the distance was blown by the gust of wind and swayed constantly. The collision between the two sides was even better than Hyuga-chen. The giant vacuum punch he released broke Otsutsuki Hamura's fist and fell towards Otsutsuki Hamura mercilessly. Otsutsuki Hamura didn't have time to look horrified, so he quickly turned on Tenseigen, used Tenseigen chakra mode, and protected him with Gudodama, truth-seeking ball. Gudodama, truth-seeking ball, an almost omnipotent invincible ninjutsu, is very embarrassed under the 80 gods vacuum attack, and the defenses broken in an instant, which makes Gudodama, truth-seeking ball, very embarrassed. The giant vacuum fist carried a monstrous force and bombarded Otsutsuki Hamura's body. Under this kind of force that crushed everything seemed very weak. When Otsutsuki Hamura was hit, blood gushed out of his mouth, and he swayed it out without money. The giant vacuum fist, carrying Otsutsuki Hamura, smashed to the ground, setting off a whole sky of dust. Otsutsuki Hamura was driven into the depths of several kilometers, and his life and death were unknown. Otsutsuki Hagoromo in the distance, there was a trace of fear in his heart. It was too strong, and he didn't know whether Hamura was dead or alive now. Not that Otsutsuki Hagoromo cares about his younger brother, but that he needs Otsutsuki Hamura to deal with Hyuga-chen together. Otherwise, Otsutsuki Hagoromo wished that he died, and he was not blind, so he could not see Otsutsuki Hamura's escape. Chapter 183 Divine Light / Hyuga-chen looked at the huge pit bombarded by the 80 gods vacuum attack, and he could clearly perceive that Otsutsuki Hamura was not dead, but still had the breath of life. Although Hyuga-chen didn't expect to kill Otsutsuki Hamura all at once, but he had to sigh, he is really an immortal little strong. Otsutsuki Hamura flew out of the deep pit, and then fell unsteadily in the air, but fortunately Otsutsuki Hagoromo caught him, otherwise he would definitely fall into the mud. However, Otsutsuki Hamura's condition is indeed very bad. The body has been twisted, and the bones are broken in half. Although it is seriously injured, as long as it is not killed by a single blow, it can be quickly recovered. This is the pervert of the 6 paths level. Otsutsuki Hamura, who was slowly recovering, Hyuga-chen was a little speechless. The 6 paths level is really an unbeatable Shaoqiang. If Otsutsuki Hamura didn't enter the Tenseigen chakra state just now, Hyuga-chen might be able to kill him directly. However, after entering the Tenseigen chakra mode, Otsutsuki Hamura's defense and recovery were all enhanced several times, and he forcibly resisted Hyuga-chen's 80-13 air strike. If I have the devil's eye to die, I will hack you to death in minutes. Hyuga-chen said fiercely, looking at Otsutsuki Hamura, who had almost recovered. Would you like to have an infinite reincarnation and kill them directly? Hyuga-chen thought while pinching his chin. Or give them a moment to stand still and then kill them with a knife. Just when Hyuga-chen was thinking, a dozen black spheres rose into the sky, and the majestic gravitational force pulled Hyuga-chen. Hyuga-chen looked at the flying rocks around him, looked up at the dozen Chibaku Tensei, heavenly body bursting from the earth, and smiled disdainfully. Chibaku Tensei, heavenly body bursting from the earth, cannot be said to be weak, but its weaknesses are obvious. The black chakra sphere is the source of gravity. As long as the black sphere is destroyed, the Chibaku Tensei, heavenly body bursting from the earth, will also be broken. Hyuga-chen stretched out his hand, and a dozen golden streaks flew out, without needing to aim, and automatically shattered the black chakra ball under the action of gravity. A dozen Chibaku Tensei, heavenly body bursting from the earth, just cracked. Otsutsuki Hagoromo looked stunned and bewildered. Does this look dumbfounded? Super Shinra Tensei Almighty Push sign. The huge repulsive force came out, and the stunned Otsutsuki Hagoromo and Otsutsuki Hamura were hit, and the hard bones were shattered by the powerful repulsive shock wave. The two lay on the ground in ruins, and the blood kept flowing. You can't go on like this, you have to find a way to beat him. If you still have a whole card, take it out quickly. Otsutsuki Hamura looked at Otsutsuki Hagoromo. Otsutsuki Hagoromo gleamed in his eyes and said, unless I take the 10 tails and make me a 10 tails Jinchuriki column force again, I can beat him. Otsutsuki Hamura looked at his eldest brother deeply and said lightly, I will block him, you can absorb the power of the divine tree and become the 10 tails Jinchuriki column power. After speaking, Otsutsuki Hamura did not hesitate, clenched his fists and hit Hyuga-chen. When you communicate in front of me, you don't take me too seriously. Hyuga-chen said rather unhappily. Saying everything in front of him, are you looking down on him, or are you looking down on him? Ryujin Jaka that has not been used for a long time, the cold light shines on the blade, and the sharp edge makes the skin sting. Divine Light Slash. Hyuga-chen raised Ryujin Jaka and swung it down, the invisible sword energy that could not be seen slashed towards Otsutsuki Hamura. Sword energy had reached Otsutsuki Hamura's face. Otsutsuki Hamura was able to perceive the invisible sword energy. Otsutsuki Hamura hurriedly defended, but it was obviously a little late, and the invisible sword energy had already slashed at him. Otsutsuki Hamura's right arm was cut off, and his body was almost cut in two, and this was not the most important sword chi did not disappear, but turned into a small sword chi that could not be seen with the naked eye, pouring into his body. Destruction inside the body. Moreover, Shenghuang Slash is the strongest sword technique created by Hyuga-chen, and it also comes with a soul attack. Ah! Otsutsuki Hamura screamed, then fell to the ground, unable to move at all. Otsutsuki Hagoromo, who originally wanted to capture the sacred tree, couldn't care less about the sacred tree, and hurried to Otsutsuki Hamura's side to protect him. Now the two of them are grasshoppers on a rope. As long as one is finished, the other is not far from death. Hamura, are you all right? Otsutsuki Hagoromo asked with a frown, looking at the pale and twisted Otsutsuki Hamura. Otsutsuki Hamura didn't speak at all, he felt like his soul had been slashed by 1,000 swords. Now Otsutsuki Hamura can't even open his mouth in pain, let alone speak. Seeing Otsutsuki Hamura's tragic appearance, Otsutsuki Hagoromo frowned, completely incapacitated. Could he be alone with Hyuga-chen? Otsutsuki Hagoromo shook his head without thinking, neither of them were Hyuga-chen's opponents, let alone him alone. Just when Otsutsuki Hagoromo was thinking about how to deal with Hyuga-chen, Otsutsuki Hamura got up, his face covered in cold sweat. You go grab the 10 tails and leave me alone. Otsutsuki Hamura bit Kiba and said. Not that he is selfless, but that he knows that if Hyuga-chen is not killed, they will die. Can you hold on? Seeing Otsutsuki Hamura's unsteady appearance, Otsutsuki Hagoromo was suspicious. Go, or we're all going to die. Otsutsuki Hamura roared, and charged towards Hyuga-chen. The golden wheel is reborn. The lightsaber formed by chakra slashed towards Hyuga-chen. Hey tilde gao tianyuan. Hyuga-chen sneered, the 650 chakra lightsaber slashed through Hyuga-chen, but did not cause any damage to Hyuga-chen. What? How is that possible? Otsutsuki Hamura's eyes widened, looking at Hyuga-chen in shock. The so-called impossible is entirely because your pattern is too small. Hyuga-chen looked at Otsutsuki Hamura with flat eyes. Shinra Bansho, all creation. All ashes. Ryujin Jaka. The 6,000-degree explosion covered Ryujin Jaka, and the scorching temperature made the air scorching hot. Burn the city on fire. Hyuga-chen swung his sword at Otsutsuki Hagoromo, like the flame of his palm wrapped around Otsutsuki Hagoromo, who was running towards the sacred tree, trapping him inside. As long as he wanted to escape, he would be chased by a 6,000-degree flame. Otsutsuki Hagoromo, who was trapped in the flames, was sweating hotly, and when he was about to rush out of the flames, he felt a sense of danger. Otsutsuki Hagoromo, who believed in his own feelings very much, did not rush forward. His hands formed a seal, and Otsutsuki Hagoromo's body entered another space. Although Otsutsuki Hagoromo does not know Yomatsu Hirasaka, the ultimate space mystery, it does not mean that he does not know other space ninjutsu. Relying on space ninjutsu, Otsutsuki Hagoromo broke away from the encirclement of flames and went straight to the sacred tree. Seeing this, Otsutsuki Hamura didn't care to be shocked by Hyuga-chen, ignoring the rebirth of the Golden Wheel, and rushed up to drag Hyuga-chen. Chapter 184 I Technique Tien Chong Li Zun. You dare to grab my things in front of me. If you succeed, how can I mess around in the future? Hyuga-chen looked at Otsutsuki Hagoromo, who was approaching the sacred tree, and said coldly. Let's get rid of the guy who gets in your way first. Tenseigen repulse. Hyuga-chen looked at Otsutsuki Hamura, who was attacking him frantically. Strong repulsion and gravitational force acted on Otsutsuki Hamura's body at the same time. Otsutsuki Hamura was crushed by the repulsive force and felt like he was about to be crushed into powder. In order not to be squeezed into blood, Otsutsuki Hamura used repulsion to fight against Hyuga-chen's repulsion. Glancing at Otsutsuki Hamura, who was unable to move, Hyuga-chen stretched out his hand to aim at Otsutsuki Hagoromo in the distance, and a tyrannical gravitational force erupted from Hyuga-chen's hand. Otsutsuki Hagoromo, who was only one step away from the sacred tree, had a smile on his face changed wildly, and his figure was pulled back by Hyuga-chen. Otsutsuki Hagoromo, with both hands hand seal, wanted to use space ninjutsu to escape the gravity, but the surrounding space had been frozen by Hyuga-chen, and his space ninjutsu could not be used at all. Otsutsuki Hagoromo could only watch as he was getting further and further away from the sacred tree. Otsutsuki Hagoromo could counterattack. Hyuga-chen came to him. Ryujin Jaka in his hand danced rapidly, and the sword light that filled the sky shrouded Otsutsuki Hagoromo. Hyuga-chen's knife was too fast. Otsutsuki Hagoromo couldn't keep up with Hyuga-chen's swing speed, leaving holes on his body, and the blood had completely dyed him Yuhi. The danger of being cut in half with a single knife, Otsutsuki Hagoromo finally escaped from Hyugatatsu's attack. Breath. Otsutsuki Hagoromo's face was extremely ugly. Did he really want to show his trump card? Thinking for a moment, Otsutsuki Hagoromo was determined. If he didn't even have a life, what's the use of keeping his whole cards? Tien Chong Li Zun. Otsutsuki Hagoromo shouted, his aura skyrocketed. Just a short period of time, Otsutsuki Hagoromo's strength skyrocketed tenfold, and his strength was incomparable to before. Looking at Otsutsuki Hagoromo, who exploded, Hyuga-chen spit in his heart. No wonder Otsutsuki Kagaya can be sealed. It turns out that Otsutsuki Hagoromo is also the protagonist, and he exploded at a critical moment. Otsutsuki Hagoromo's eyes were extremely cold. As soon as he stepped on the ground, he charged straight towards Hyuga-chen, and the speed was already comparable to the speed of light. Hyuga-chen waved his hand to block Otsutsuki Hagoromo's fist, and was blasted several hundred meters away by the powerful force. What a powerful force! Hyuga-chen's expression turned serious, and now Otsutsuki Hagoromo has the strength to face him. Is this your Rinnegan pupil technique? Hyuga-chen asked curiously, but he already knew the answer in his heart. That's right, this is when I started Rinnegan. The awakened pupil technique is always standing, which can enhance my strength tenfold in all directions. Otsutsuki Hagoromo said proudly. Increasing his strength tenfold, so against the sky. Hyuga-chen was stunned. He thought that his awakened pupil technique was already the most against the sky, but he didn't expect Otsutsuki Hagoromo's pupil technique to be no weaker than him. It's really funny, ha ha ha. Hyuga-chen Yangtian laughed and looked at Otsutsuki Hagoromo greedily. If he devoured his Rinnegan, wouldn't he be able to get this heaven-defying pupil technique? Thinking of this, Hyuga-chen's eyes gleamed with blood. Originally, Hyuga-chan would not let Otsutsuki Hagoromo go, and now she will not let him go. By Hyuga-chan's greedy eyes, Otsutsuki Hagoromo was very uncomfortable. Give your eyes out, and I might spare your life. Let me die. Otsutsuki Hagoromo was furious and hit Hyuga-chan with a monstrous palm. Hyuga-chan didn't flinch. He also wanted to see how much the pupil technique of Tianchong Lizhen could increase, and whether Otsutsuki Hagoromo was bragging. This time, Hyuga Tatsu gathered all the strength of his body in his palm, and slammed with Otsutsuki Hagoromo. Otsutsuki Hagoromo was knocked back several kilometers by Hyuga-chan's powerful force, and Hyuga-chan was also knocked back several hundred meters. Ha ha ha, really strong enough, Hyuga-chan said with a big laugh. Previously, Hyuga-chan could hang Otsutsuki Hagoromo without using all his strength, but now he used all his strength and was knocked back. This shows how much Otsutsuki Hagoromo has strengthened. Otsutsuki Hagoromo was not so happy, his face gloomy as water. Relying on chakra's explosive power and his own physical strength, he actually fell behind in the confrontation with Hyuga-chan, who only relied on physical strength. He couldn't believe how strong Hyuga-chan was. Maybe he could kill him before with a few punches with just a few punches. Otsutsuki Hagoromo was very unwilling and jealous in his heart. He was the ancestor of the ninja, who created the ninja sect with one hand and passed on the chakra, but was surpassed by the younger generation. While jealous of Hyuga-chan, I also felt embarrassed. But the current situation doesn't allow him to think too much, because Hyuga-chan's blade has already slashed over. Otsutsuki Hagoromo took out his Six Paths tin stick and collided with Ryujin Jaka of Hyuga-chan. Otsutsuki Hagoromo's Six Paths tin stick is not created by Yin-Yang Dun, but is made of unknown materials and is extremely hard. Ryujin Jaka, who was extremely sharp and wrapped in 6,000-degree explosive flames, there was no damage. Hyuga-chan's swordsmanship is like a streamer, and the angle of attack is very tricky, making people unable to react at all. Otsutsuki Hagoromo, whose strength was 10 times stronger, could only be tired of resisting such a sword technique. Facing Hyuga-chan's Ryujin Jaka, Otsutsuki Hagoromo didn't dare to let Hyuga-chan hit him, especially the vital parts. Otherwise, being slashed by a knife carrying a 6,000-degree explosive flame, although he would not be hacked to death with a single sword with his strength, it would definitely not be better. Sound of swords and soldiers, Hyuga Tatsu and Otsutsuki Hagoromo have been fighting fiercely for several hours. At this time, Hyuga-chan's face was not at all tired, but became more and more excited, but Otsutsuki Hagoromo was no longer able to do it. Although Tianchong Lizhen's pupil technique was pervert, his consumption was also very pervert. Even though Otsutsuki Hagoromo's pupil power and chakra are almost infinite, it is not really infinite, and under such crazy consumption, he can't hold on anymore. After attacking Hyuga-chan again, Otsutsuki Hagoromo released the pupil technique of Tianchong Lizhen, and then used Sage Mode to absorb natural energy, reluctantly resisting Hyuga-chan. Hyuga-chan kicked Otsutsuki Hagoromo away with a random kick, feeling a little bored. Before, when Otsutsuki Hagoromo hadn't lifted Tianchong Lizhen, Hyuga-chan still felt a little interesting, but now, Hyuga-chan can solve him with a few tricks. Looks like you've run out of skills. Hyuga-chan shook his head in disappointment. Silver is reborn. Suddenly, a loud shout came from behind Hyuga-chan. Chapter 185 Powerful Six Paths Susanoo. A silver-colored gravitational storm swept over Hyuga-chan like a gust of wind. Six Paths oversized jade Rasenshuriken. Hyuga-chan turned his head and threw the two giant Rasenshuriken out of his hand, colliding with Silver's reincarnation explosion. After a stalemate, Silver's reincarnation exploded, and the two weakened Rasenshuriken flew towards Otsutsuki Hamura. Without hesitation, Otsutsuki Hamura immediately used Yomatsu Hirasaka to leave the place, and in the moment when Otsutsuki Hamura left, Rasenshuriken fell, leaving a deep sinkhole in the ground. Otsutsuki Hamura, who escaped this blow, was covered in cold sweat. If he was really hit, he might have been beaten to dust. Otsutsuki Hagoromo and Otsutsuki Hamura stood side by side, watching Hyuga-chen vigilantly, feeling slightly bitter in their hearts. They have been following the ninja world for so many years, but the pervert of Hyuga-chen is like popping out of a crack in a stone, and there was no information about Hyuga-chen before. The key point is that Hyuga-chen who popped out is too strong. Originally, they thought that after sealing their mother, they would be invincible in the ninja world, but Hyuga-chen who popped out suddenly slapped them in the face. Not only did they beat them in the face, but now they want their lives. How about we stop here? I won't interfere with you, and you won't violate us. Otsutsuki Hagoromo said in a deep voice. Ha, are you kidding me? Do you think I can let go of the fat in your mouth? 723 inches. Hyuga-chen looked at Otsutsuki Hagoromo with a foolish look. Otsutsuki Hagoromo's old face turned Yuhi's face, and he was extremely embarrassed. You don't think I can do anything to you, I just don't want to die. Otsutsuki Hagoromo said angrily. The fish is dead and the net is broken. It's just you. Hyuga-chen glanced at him disdainfully, his eyes full of contempt. Otsutsuki Hagoromo's anger rose in his heart, and when he was so high above the world for so many years, when was he looked down on so much? You hold him back first, Otsutsuki Hagoromo said, then looked serious. Otsutsuki Hamura is upset, what is he doing to hold Hyuga-chen now? Otsutsuki Hamura didn't want to continue fighting, he wanted to take the opportunity to leave, even if he left the earth, he had to avoid this god of plague. I can't hold him back anymore, you should do it yourself. Otsutsuki Hamura said lightly. Otsutsuki Hagoromo was furious when he heard the words, a cold glow appeared in the purple Rinnegan, and then quickly subsided. Hyuga-chen looked at the two of them with interest. If the two of them fight, it will be more interesting, Hyuga-chen thought, rubbing his chin. But this is just a thought, no matter what kind of grievances the two of them have, they will not conflict at this time, because there is Hyuga-chen in front of them. Hamura, you have to think about it, you think you can escape in his hands. Otsutsuki Hagoromo squinted slightly, an old fox who lived for more than 700 years, how could he not understand Otsutsuki Hamura's thoughts? Yes, thank you for your reminder, I can't let you run away. Otsutsuki Hagoromo's words also reminded Hyuga-chen. Space blockade. Hyuga-chen snorted softly, the space fluctuated invisibly, and then returned to normal. Now that the entire space has been sealed off by Hyuga-chen, no one can use space ninjutsu except him. Hyuga-chen could catch up if they escaped, that would be too troublesome. Otsutsuki Hamura tried to use Yomatsu Hirasaka, but the result made him look very bad. The space that could have been opened easily has not moved at all. Also with an ugly face is Otsutsuki Hagoromo. The space is blocked, which is not good for him, which means that his original ultimate card is no longer available. Hamura, gather the strength of you and me to break the space blockade, otherwise we will only be trapped to death. Otsutsuki Hagoromo looked very serious. Hyuga-chen crushed him with strength before. Otsutsuki Hagoromo was not as flustered as he is now, and now Otsutsuki Hagoromo is indeed flustered. This time Otsutsuki Hamura didn't say anything, just nodded silently. 6 paths Susanoo. Otsutsuki Hagoromo performed Susanoo with all his strength, and his size has surpassed 10 tails. Damn it, how can Susanoo be this big? Hyuga-chen looked at the tall Susanoo, and had to sigh. But why is he stronger than Otsutsuki Hagoromo, but can't use such a tall Susanoo? Hyuga-chen thought about this question quietly, perhaps because he had never tried it before. At this time, Otsutsuki Hamura also moved, and the chakra on his body was continuously transmitted to Otsutsuki Hagoromo, making the already huge Susanoo even bigger. Just stand on the ground and let the ground sink. The huge Susanoo clenched his fist and swung it out, but instead of attacking Hyuga-chen, he hit the empty space. Although the size does not mean the strength is strong, but the strength of this Susanoo is very strong. This punch hits a huge air cannon, and even the space blocked by Hyuga-chen made a shattering sound of relief. Senpo, Sage Art Mokuden, Wood Style, Shinsusenju Top Kazuo. How could Hyuga-chen tolerate this Susanoo pretending to be aggressive and use the ultimate Mokuden, Wood Style, move? Compared to Senju Hashirama's Big Buddha, Hyuga-chen used a much taller, more powerful 10 times more powerful, countless arms hit Susanoo go. Boom, boom, boom. Fists and palm prints slammed down, like a violent storm. There is a saying that 2 fists can't beat 4 hands. Senju Buddha doesn't know how many palms. All of them are hit together. Even 6 paths Susanoo of Otsutsuki Hagoromo can't resist, and can only be beaten passively. Every punch fell like a meteor, and even though 6 paths Susanoo had a strong defense, the armor was shattered. After one round of attack, 6 paths Susanoo was tattered, and Senju Buddha's arms were all broken, and generally speaking, no one took advantage. Seeing that the Senju Buddha's attack was completed, the 2 brothers Otsutsuki Hagoromo just wanted to breathe a sigh of relief, but the Senju Buddha's arm grew out again and launched the next round of attacks on Susanoo. The 2 behemoths banged against each other. It was Earth-kun who suffered, and the poor Earth-kun was beaten with pits. The slash of Susanoo. Otsutsuki Hagoromo, who didn't want to be beaten passively, shouted, ignoring the fist of the Mokuden, Wood-style, Buddha, gathering all the power of 6 paths Susanoo to swing this sword. The long sword with a shocking power, slashed at the Mokuden, Wood-style, Buddha go down. The knife fell. The huge sword energy had already cut off the arm of the Mokuden, Wood-style, Buddha, until it slashed on the Mokuden, Wood-style, Buddha's body. This powerful knife slashed through the Mokuden, Wood-style, Buddha like cutting tofu, cutting the huge Mokuden, Wood-style, Buddha in half diagonally. Hyuga-chen used the repulsive force to repel all the dust from the storm, and looked at the huge 6 paths Susanoo in surprise. I didn't expect that the 6 paths Susanoo was more violent than the Mokuden, Wood-style, Buddha, and could cut the Mokuden, Wood-style, Buddha into pieces with one knife. 2 halves. What Hyuga-chen didn't see was that the 2 brothers, Otsutsuki Hagoromo, among the Susanoo, were already out of breath, and it was obvious that the blow was very expensive. Chapter 186 Final Hole Card. The Golden Wheel is reborn. Hyuga-chen snorted softly. The dazzling golden blade slashed through it, which was originally awesome, but cut off the 6 paths Susanoo of the Mokuden, Wood-style, Buddha with one knife, and was cut in half by the golden sword light. Although 6 paths Susanoo was cut in half, Otsutsuki Hagoromo had a happy face, because the space blockade was finally broken, and it was still opened by Hyuga-chen's golden circle, life explosion. You help me block Hyuga-chen, or we will all die, think about it. After Otsutsuki Hagoromo said one sentence, he ignored Otsutsuki Hamura. He knew that Otsutsuki Hamura would make the right choice. Senpo, Sage Art Gate of the Great God. Countless Yuhi-colored torii gates fell from the sky and smashed down on Hyuga-chen. Otsutsuki Hagoromo didn't want to be able to suppress Hyuga-chen, but just wanted to buy a little time. Then Otsutsuki Hagoromo had a serious face, and hands sealed with both hands to open a space passage that connected to the Pure Land. Otsutsuki Hamura looked at Otsutsuki Hagoromo, who had a serious look and didn't know what to prepare, bit Kiba, and then rushed towards Hyuga-chen at the fastest speed. He doesn't want to die, and now he can only trust the methods of his big brother. Otsutsuki Hagoromo, who was concentrating on the hand seal, also breathed a sigh of relief. He was afraid that Otsutsuki Hamura would not listen to him and chose to run away, then he would have to wait to die. He easily avoided the countless torii gates falling from the sky, and then his calf turned into a photon and kicked Otsutsuki Hamura at the speed of light. Otsutsuki Hamura was kicked back and the bones in his chest were broken, leaving a footprint in his chest. 6 paths adamantine sealing chains. Countless chakra chains flew out from behind Hyuga-chen and went straight to Otsutsuki Hamura like a wandering dragon. Otsutsuki Hamura immediately dodged and left the place. As soon as Otsutsuki Hamura left, the chakra chain was whipped in his original position, leaving many cracks on the ground. By Hyuga Chen's chains, Otsutsuki Hamura's embarrassed dodges, and when he couldn't avoid them, he blocked the chains with the black stick of Gudodama truth-seeking ball in his hand. These chains are extremely hard, formed by the 6 paths chakra, and not even the black rod of Gudodama truth-seeking ball can handle these chains. Facing the chakra chains, Otsutsuki Hamura could clearly feel the danger, and he did not dare to be bound by these chains, otherwise who knows what would happen. Come on, I can't hold on anymore. Otsutsuki Hamura yelled at Otsutsuki Hagoromo. There are too many chains, and the speed is very fast. He has been surrounded by these overwhelming chains, and now he can only protect himself by blocking these chains. Otsutsuki Hagoromo didn't answer. Didn't he know how critical the situation was? Of course he knew, but he was at a critical moment now. It's not that Hyuga-chan's attack didn't target him, but Otsutsuki Hagoromo split up a clone in advance and desperately resisted the chakra chain, buying him time. In the Pure Land of Bliss, there are all the souls who have died within a few hundred years, including the chakras they once cultivated. Why did Otsutsuki Hagoromo set up ninja sect and pass chakra to the world? Is there really no purpose? Of course not. Whether it is Otsutsuki Kagaya or Otsutsuki Momoshiki, they are very concerned about chakra, and Otsutsuki Hagoromo is no exception. However, compared to the rest of the Otsutsuki clan, Otsutsuki Hagoromo has more ideas, and he disdains to do a one-shot deal. He passed on the chakra. As long as the ninja with chakra died, the chakra they cultivated would not disappear, but all fell into his hands and collected by him. Otsutsuki Hagoromo treats everyone in the ninja world as sheep, and chakra as wool, so that he can get a steady stream of chakra. I have to say that Otsutsuki Hagoromo is indeed very thoughtful and very successful. In the past 700 or 800 years, the number of chakras he has collected is astonishing, which is much more terrifying than the chakras of 10 tails. In fact, Otsutsuki Hagoromo also peeps at 10 tails chakra, but in order to keep a low profile and not attract the enemy that his mother feared, Otsutsuki Hagoromo reluctantly separated 10 tails chakra. Otsutsuki Hagoromo originally thought that he would recover 10 tails when his own strength was not afraid of the enemy that his mother feared. However, the sudden appearance of Hyuga Chen interrupted his low-key career. He couldn't keep a low profile any longer, and he would be killed if he kept a low profile. Now Otsutsuki Hagoromo desperately wanted to get back the chakra and get back to the game. Looking at the majestic chakras that were almost endless, Otsutsuki Hagoromo was excited and began to inhale these chakras into his body. At the same time, he looked at the souls in the Pure Land, and with a ruthless heart, he swallowed all these souls into his body. After Otsutsuki Hagoromo's transformation, the power of his soul was turned into a majestic pupil power, which made his withered pupil power become fuller and stronger than before. After 10 minutes, Otsutsuki Hagoromo was completely absorbed, his strength grew like a rocket, and then Otsutsuki Hagoromo returned to the ninja world with confidence. Through observation haki, Hyuga Chen sensed the change of Otsutsuki Hagoromo, and could not help but put away the chakra chains and looked at Otsutsuki Hagoromo, who had undergone great changes. At this time, Otsutsuki Hagoromo's eyes have become 9-tomo Sharingan, and a blood Yuhi's 9-tomo Sharingan appears on his forehead. The bewitching Samsara Sharingan looked at Hyuga Chen, full of murderous intent and greed. If he can get Hyuga Chen's chakra, plus 10 tails chakra, it is the enemy his mother fears, and it is definitely not his opponent. If you add. Otsutsuki Hagoromo glanced at Otsutsuki Hamura, and the greed in his heart was even greater. Greed is an original sin, and I can't seem to get rid of it. Like Otsutsuki Hagoromo, Hyuga Chen's eyes also glowed with greed. Otsutsuki Hagoromo's thoughts are Hyuga Chen's own thoughts. Even compared to Otsutsuki Hagoromo, Hyuga Chen is more greedy, and his goal is not only the chakras of the 10 tails and 6 paths brothers. Both sides stared at each other with greedy eyes, and Otsutsuki Hamura had been ignored by the two. I can give you a chance to surrender. Otsutsuki Hagoromo looked at Hyuga Chen with indifferent eyes, Feeling the powerful strength of his body, his confidence all came back. Hyuga-chen raised his eyebrows, so arrogant, he actually made him surrender. Since you give me a chance, then I'm not a stingy person. I will also give you a chance to dig out your reincarnation Sharingan, and then raise your hand to surrender. I can give you a happy death. Otsutsuki Hagoromo's expression turned cold. Since you insist on courting death, then I will fulfill you. Hyuga-chen waved his hand and pouted his lips in disdain. Don't pretend, you and I both know that I can't let you go, and you won't let me go. Humph. Otsutsuki Hagoromo snorted coldly, acquiescing to Hyuga-chen's words. The momentum of the two rose up, and the ground under their feet continued to crack, and the cracks continued for several kilometers. Poor Otsutsuki Hamura, under the attack of this huge momentum, looked very helpless, and could only stare at the two people standing in the air, full of force. How can these two become gods? What does this make him a little god? Chapter 187 Heavens Royal. In the battle of momentum, Hyuga-chen easily prevailed, and the invisible momentum oppressed Otsutsuki Hagoromo. Otsutsuki Hagoromo's face was expressionless, but it was hard to accept in his heart why he had absorbed so many chakras, and he couldn't compare to Hyuga-chen. First strike is stronger. Hyuga-chen instantly appeared behind Otsutsuki Hagoromo, and then slapped it with a palm, wanting to test his strength first. Otsutsuki Hagoromo instantly noticed Hyuga-chen behind him, and slapped Hyuga-chen with his palm. Just when Otsutsuki Hagoromo wondered how he could hit Hyuga-chen so easily, the Hyuga-chen he hit turned into a cloud of smoke. At the same time, Otsutsuki Hagoromo felt a sense of crisis, and then he felt a pain in his body. An arm penetrated his body, and the arm was extremely dark, shining with metallic luster, like a sharp blade. Looks like you are just like that now. Hyuga-chen smiled lightly at the corner of his mouth, with disdain and ridicule in his smile. Otsutsuki Hagoromo ignored the wound on his chest, and the chakra burst out from his body, sending Hyuga-chen Buki flying out, and the wound healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Hyuga-chen, who was blasted out by the chakra blowing out of Otsutsuki Hagoromo, fell right next to Otsutsuki Hamura. Hyuga-chen smiled slightly, stretched out his hand to dig out Otsutsuki Hamura's eyes like lightning, and then without waiting for Otsutsuki Hamura to cry out in pain, a light speed kick kicked him on the head. Otsutsuki Hamura was knocked out by this sudden kick, and his body was entangled by Hyuga-chen's control of the divine tree, and his chakra and vitality were slowly sucked up by the divine tree. Everything was just a blink of an eye. When Otsutsuki Hagoromo didn't react, Hyuga-chen had already settled Otsutsuki Hamura. Otsutsuki Hamura wrapped in the divine tree. Otsutsuki Hagoromo didn't mean to rescue him, but looked at Hyuga-chen with a solemn expression. Heaven is always respected. Otsutsuki Hagoromo gave a low drink, and the breath on his body increased tenfold. Seeing that Otsutsuki Hagoromo's strength has been enhanced tenfold again, Hyuga-chen's eyes are even more greedy. This pupil technique is too powerful. In Hyuga-chen's eyes, this pupil technique is more precious than 10 taels. Drink tilde. Otsutsuki Hagoromo shouted loudly, and the 6 paths tin stick smashed towards Hyuga-chen's head, and the speed and power were almost the same as Hyuga-chen. Hyuga-chen's face became solemn, and he covered his whole body with armament haki, and then the whole body's strength was concentrated on his fingers, and he pointed towards Otsutsuki Hagoromo. The powerful force penetrated the space, causing the surrounding space to shatter. Seeing this, Otsutsuki Hagoromo hurriedly retracted his attack, avoiding Hyuga-chen's blow. With such a powerful finger, he was not sure what to do next, and at the same time cursed Hyuga-chen pervert in his heart. Otsutsuki Hagoromo dares to say that his strength is definitely higher than his mother Otsutsuki Kagaya, even more than a lot, but when facing Hyuga-chen, he still feels that his strength is somewhat insufficient. Hyuga-chen smiled disdainfully. His attack was something you could dodge if you wanted to. Use space teleport to appear behind Otsutsuki Hagoromo, and then destroy half of his body with one finger. Otsutsuki Hagoromo quickly distanced himself from Hyuga-chen and slowly repaired the half of his body that had been beaten to ashes. Hyuga-chen looked at the flustered Otsutsuki Hagoromo with a disdainful smile on the corner of his mouth, looking down on Otsutsuki Hagoromo a little. In fact, the power of Otsutsuki Hagoromo is not worse than that of Hyuga-chen, and it is even stronger. It is a pity that Otsutsuki Hagoromo will not use it. To be honest, Otsutsuki Hagoromo's combat experience is not strong. However, it is also understandable that Otsutsuki Hagoromo was born in a noble family, and he was not fighting. Therefore, Otsutsuki Hagoromo's combat experience is not very good, and it is not as good as Hyuga-chen anyway. And in terms of various abilities, Hyuga-chen, who has the system, can crush him, so even if Otsutsuki Hagoromo's strength increases tenfold, Hyuga-chen is not afraid of him. Even if he really can't beat him, Hyuga-chen still has the immortality of the dog spell, as well as the rogue pupil technique, Gao Tianyuan. Grinding can grind him to death. Unlike Hyuga-chen's relaxed expression, Otsutsuki Hagoromo's expression was not good, as ugly as eating shit. The first attack failed, and Otsutsuki Hagoromo felt bad in his heart. I just made a fool of myself and asked me to surrender, so I'm not afraid now, right? Hyuga-chen teased. Humph. With a cold snort, Otsutsuki Hagoromo shot out a golden chakra beam with one palm, very similar to 8 trigrams. Looking at the chakra beam, Hyuga-chen naturally wouldn't be stupid enough to take it hard, and immediately escaped into his own space to avoid this blow. Damn, Otsutsuki Hagoromo cursed. Hyuga-chen came out of the space. He saw the twisted face of Otsutsuki Hagoromo. Hyuga-chen grinned at him, full of sarcasm, making Otsutsuki Hagoromo's face look like Yuhi. Heaven's Royal Palace. Otsutsuki Hagoromo shouted angrily and took Hyuga-chen to the ice space in the Imperial Palace of Heaven. Looking at the endless world of ice and snow, Hyuga-chen did not panic, but looked at it with interest. To die. A loud shout interrupted Hyuga-chen's appreciation of the scenery, and countless ice spears stabbed at Hyuga-chen. Do you only use such a small trick? Hyuga-chen said mockingly, the ice spear stabbing at him shattered before it approached him. To be honest, I am really surprised that you can use the Imperial Palace. This is where your bones are buried. Otsutsuki Hagoromo's face was expressionless, his voice extremely cold. Hey my bone burial. You might as well try. Hyuga-chen's expression became cold. Looking at Otsutsuki Hagoromo with indifferent eyes, he was about to get serious. Chakra Cannon. Otsutsuki Hagoromo roared and pushed out with both hands, similar to Tailed Beast Bomb's attack, sent out in the palm of Otsutsuki Hamura. Hyuga-chen smiled indifferently, stretched out his hand, and spit out 2 words, Destroy God. The powerful chakra cannon, which melted the ice, touched Hyuga-chen's palm, but did not explode with any power and was swallowed and absorbed by Hyuga-chen. Otsutsuki Hagoromo's attack can only be said to be a blessing. Not only did it not hurt Hyuga-chen, but it also supplemented Hyuga-chen with chakra. How is that possible? Otsutsuki Hagoromo couldn't believe it. His attack was mixed with the power of 6 paths. Rinnegan couldn't absorb it. How did Hyuga-chen absorb it? Hyuga-chen didn't mean to explain it to him. Taking advantage of Otsutsuki Hagoromo's momentary absence, Hyuga-chen came to him instantly, put his hand on his back, and used the pupil technique to devour the gods. Otsutsuki Hagoromo's pupils shrank suddenly, and the chakra, vitality and pupil power in his body all poured into Hyuga-chen's body uncontrollably. When Otsutsuki Hagoromo wanted to struggle, countless chakra chains flew out of Hyuga-chen and bound Otsutsuki Hagoromo. Chapter 188 Horrified Otsutsuki Hagoromo. Otsutsuki Hagoromo shouted loudly and shattered the chakra chain with a powerful force. Just when he was about to breathe a sigh of relief, the chakra chain wrapped around again and bound Otsutsuki Hagoromo. Hyuga Tatsu was absorbing chakra behind Otsutsuki Hagoromo with swear words in his mouth. You don't have to struggle. You're all about to die anyway. It's better to die easier than struggling so hard. I'll go to your grandma's leg. Otsutsuki Hagoromo cursed in his heart. Unable to break free, Otsutsuki Hagoromo is in crisis. Hyuga Chen's devouring speed is no joke. His current chakra has been devoured by half. If it is swallowed like this, it will not take long for his chakra to be swallowed up, and then he will only have to take this road. Otsutsuki Hagoromo was naturally unwilling to die like this. The three samsara Sharingan fluctuated a little, and then Otsutsuki Hagoromo transferred himself to another dimension, freed from the shackles of Hyuga Chen. Want to run? Not so easy. Hyuga Chen broke through the space and followed the mark left, chasing after the lava space. Looking at the gasping Otsutsuki Hagoromo, 13 Hyuga-chan gave a smirk, then kicked Otsutsuki Hagoromo's ass, kicking him into the lava. Otsutsuki Hagoromo, who did not expect Hyuga Chen to follow, threw himself into the lava. After taking a bath in the lava, Otsutsuki Hagoromo flew up. His white robe was torn, and there were several burn marks on his body. However, this can only be said to be a minor injury, and at most it will make Otsutsuki Hagoromo embarrassed. Otsutsuki Hagoromo glared at Hyuga Tatsu fiercely, then moved the space again and entered the sand space in the Heavenly Imperial Palace. Hyuga Chen also immediately followed. Hyuga-chan had just entered the sand space, and Otsutsuki Hagoromo, who had been prepared for a long time, set off a sandstorm and swept towards Hyuga-chan who had just entered. Then Otsutsuki Hagoromo escaped into other spaces again. Hyuga Chen waved his hand to break up this little trick, and there was a trace of anger in his eyes. He was not in such a good mood, playing hide and seek with Otsutsuki Hagoromo. Go back in time. Hyuga-chan spit out 4 words coldly. Otsutsuki Hagoromo, who had fled into other dimensions, returned to before he escaped into other dimensions. And Hyuga Chen just stood opposite him. His fist, he punched Otsutsuki Hagoromo's nose, breaking the bridge of his nose, and a tear appeared in Otsutsuki Hagoromo's painful eyes. Hyuga-chan smiled coldly. Everything had just begun. Next, Hyuga Chen did not give Otsutsuki Hagoromo time to recover, and punched Otsutsuki Hagoromo in the face. A few big white fang flew out, and Otsutsuki Hagoromo flew out, leaving a long trace in the desert. Leaving an afterimage on the spot, Hyuga Chen appeared on the route that Otsutsuki Hagoromo was flying, and slapped Otsutsuki Hagoromo in the face, sending him to the sky. Next, Otsutsuki Hagoromo flew up into the sky and did not fall down. Hyuga Chen's fists and feet kept hitting Otsutsuki Hagoromo's face. A face has been beaten into a pig's head. Otsutsuki Hagoromo, who was madly beaten in the face, was a little sluggish and didn't know how to resist, as if he had been beaten stupidly. In fact, Otsutsuki Hagoromo is not being beaten stupid now. He is now looking for an opportunity to resist. One hit will kill him. For this opportunity, Otsutsuki Hagoromo was beaten all the time. Flying across the sky, Otsutsuki Hagoromo's eyes were half open and half closed, as if he had lost his mind. Just when Hyuga Chen paused for a moment, Otsutsuki Hagoromo's eyes suddenly opened, and his eyes flashed, although it was a bit funny on the pig's face. Otsutsuki Hagoromo has a sun sigil on his left hand and a moon sigil on his right hand, very similar in shape to the ends of the 6 paths tin rod. Hyuga Chen in an instant, put both hands on Hyuga Chen's body, and shouted, 6 paths Chibaku Tensai, heavenly body bursting from the earth. This ultimate sealing technique instantly deprives Hyuga Chen of his power, and then a huge gravitational force is generated on Hyuga Chen, and the boundless sand and dust below are attracted to it. Soon the dust covered Hyuga Chen, and finally formed an incomparably huge sand ball. Otsutsuki Hagoromo watched this scene and laughed loudly. He finally solved the tricky guy Hyuga Chen. Otsutsuki Hagoromo has absolute confidence in his own ultimate sealing technique. Even his mother could not break the seal. Are you happy that you have solved the enemy? Of course. Otsutsuki Hagoromo's voice stopped abruptly, and he turned his head to look at Hyuga Chen like he had seen a ghost. Aren't you sealed? Are you sure it wasn't my clone that was sealed? Hyuga-chen asked rhetorically with a smile. Impossible, it's impossible, Otsutsuki Hagoromo roared frantically. Wasting so much energy and taking so many beatings, what was finally sealed was actually a clone, even Otsutsuki Hagoromo couldn't accept it. When exactly did you use your clone? After a long time, Otsutsuki Hagoromo, who had regained his senses, asked in a dry tone. Actually, it was my avatar who hit you in the first place. Didn't you feel the power? Hyuga-chen looked at Otsutsuki Hagoromo with a smile. I see. Otsutsuki Hagoromo nodded calmly. He did feel that something was wrong. Previously, Hyuga-chen's strength was much weaker, but he didn't think much about winning. It's so calm, it seems that I underestimate you. Hyuga-chen was slightly stunned. I thought Otsutsuki Hagoromo would go mad with anger, but he seemed to accept it calmly. As Otsutsuki Hagoromo calm 767. He was not at all calm, but Otsutsuki Hagoromo forcibly suppressed the impulse in his heart. Knowing that he can't defeat Hyuga-chen with strength, Otsutsuki Hagoromo is ready to defeat Hyuga-chen by strategy, so he must remain calm. After thinking for a long time, Otsutsuki Hagoromo sadly found that in the face of absolute strength, any conspiracy and tricks are useless. The end, Otsutsuki Hagoromo's heart was ruthless, and he controlled the super huge sand ball in the sky and smashed it down. Although it is made of sand, this sand ball has a high density and a huge volume. If it falls, the entire sand space will be destroyed. Looking at the rapidly falling sand ball, Hyuga-chen chuckled lightly, bending his legs slightly, and pulling his arms into an exaggerated posture. Taiju Profound Truth, Star Destruction Strike. Red Yuhi-colored chakra flames burned, forming a red, Yuhi-colored dragon. The space distorted and vibrated, and Hyuga-chen hit the falling sand planet. The huge sand ball that fell was smashed into ashes by this blow. The space cracked a huge hole, and the dragon drilled into the space crack and disappeared. Hyuga-chen's blow made Otsutsuki Hagoromo extremely horrified. If this blow hit him, would he be able to withstand it? The answer is absolutely unbearable. That blow may turn him into ashes, and the gust of wind set off by star destruction alone left a few deep wounds on his body, not to mention being hit in the front. Chapter 189 Solve Otsutsuki Hagoromo. Lost. I think you don't want to live anymore. Hyuga-chen smiled coldly. At a time like this, Otsutsuki Hagoromo dared to be stunned. Senpo, Sage Art Spiral Flash Shuriken. The highly compressed golden light formed the shape of a shuriken, and the sharp edge could cut through everything, and Hyuga-chen hurled it towards Otsutsuki Hagoromo. The spiral flashing shuriken slashed at Otsutsuki Hagoromo at the speed of light, targeting his head. Facing this swift spiral flashing shuriken, the sense of crisis in Otsutsuki Hagoromo's heart made him subconsciously avoid the key point. Otsutsuki Hagoromo's head, the spiral flashing shuriken slashed across his body, cutting him in two. Hyuga-chen looked at this scene and shook his head sadly. If he was hit in the head, it would definitely kill him. But if you cut it to the body, it's useless. For Otsutsuki Hagoromo, as long as he doesn't get hit in the head, even if you destroy his entire body, he can recover. It's even more powerful than Shu's super speed regeneration. It's almost immortal. Hyuga-chen doesn't know if this is exclusive to the 6 Paths class. Anyway, Otsutsuki Hagoromo and Otsutsuki Hamura can do it. As for Hyuga-chen himself, the ability to devour the dog spell itself is immortal. I have to say, this resilience is a bit rascal. Hyuga-chen shook his head, looking at Otsutsuki Hagoromo with a cold expression. His eyes were extremely flat. Chibaku Tensai, heavenly body bursting from the earth. 50 black spheres flew out of Otsutsuki Hagoromo's hand, and the gravitational force exploded frantically. Old tricks. Useless. Hyuga-chen shook his head gently. Otsutsuki Hagoromo is now exhausted, and now he is just struggling to the death. Hyuga-chen used Bakujang Tomo, countless penetrating light bullets, to remove all 50 black balls in the sky. Otsutsuki Hagoromo watched this scene and was not surprised. He knew that Chibaku Tensai, heavenly body bursting from the earth, was useless to Hyuga-chen, but he still used it. Could it be some kind of conspiracy? Of course not, he is struggling now, all his cards have been used up, and Otsutsuki Hagoromo is completely out of action. But Otsutsuki Hagoromo didn't want to take it easy, and seeing that Hyuga-chen used the gap of Tomo, Otsutsuki Hagoromo gathered all his strength and chakra and punched it. Hyuga-chen smiled coldly, armament hockey covered his arms, and the chakra in his body boiled. Futon, vapor style, monster force. The two fists slammed together, setting off an endless sandstorm, and the two figures were thrown out at the same time. Hyuga-chen stood in the air, looking at Otsutsuki Hagoromo on the opposite side, and the two were on a par with this blow. Otsutsuki Hagoromo was startled. He only realized now that his strength is not weaker than that of Hyuga-chen, and the confidence in Otsutsuki Hagoromo's heart has risen again. Hyuga-chen could clearly see the light of hope in Otsutsuki Hagoromo's eyes, and shook his head gently. Using martial arts as an analogy, Otsutsuki Hagoromo has super internal power, but has no moves that can exert super internal power. And Hyuga-chen is not weaker than his internal strength, but also has countless super powerful moves. Therefore, even though the strength of the two is not much different, the combat effectiveness is vastly different. Senpo, Sage Art Magma Jinchuriki column. Otsutsuki Hagoromo shouted, and the hot lava Jinchuriki column spewed out of his mouth. Out his hand in front of him, Hyuga-chen said indifferently, Rinnegan God Eater. The extremely powerful magma was swallowed and absorbed by Hyuga-chen's Rinnegan pupil technique. What? Even 6 paths Senpo, Sage Art can be absorbed. Otsutsuki Hagoromo was horrified, the confidence that had just risen, and the blow to his body. It's time to end. Hyuga-chen's voice came from behind Otsutsuki Hagoromo. What? Otsutsuki Hagoromo's pupils shrank suddenly, feeling like a thorn in his back. 6 paths 8 trigrams 361. The entire space was shrouded in yin-yang 8 trigrams, and in the 8 trigrams, Otsutsuki Hagoromo was bound by the power of yin-yang 6 paths, unable to move even a finger. Hyuga-chen's left hand flashes with the mark of the sun, and the right hand flashes with the mark of the moon, representing the yin and yang poles. The hands left countless light and shadows, and in less than a second, the 361 palms were completely completed. Otsutsuki Hagoromo's body acupuncture points were all sealed, his body roared, and then he fell to the ground. Hyuga-chen looked at Otsutsuki Hagoromo, who was lying on the ground, unable to speak, and the boiling chakra on his body also subsided. This move, 6 paths 8 trigrams 361, is both a physical technique and a sealing technique. It was created by Hyuga-chen on a whim when he saw Otsutsuki Hagoromo using 6 paths Chibaku Tensai, heavenly body bursting from the earth. From effect also made Hyuga-chen very satisfied, as strong as Otsutsuki Hagoromo. Under this set of palm techniques, he was also deprived of all his strength and fell to the ground unable to move. Otsutsuki Hagoromo stared at Hyuga-chen with 3 eyes, and now he can move a little except his eyes, but he can't move at all. Yohei tilde you dare to stare at me, you are very kind, watch me dig out your eyes. Hyuga-chen had a malicious smile on his face. Tianchong Lizhen is a powerful technique, you don't deserve it at all, and only the powerful me can have this pupil technique, ha ha ha. Hyuga-chen laughed wildly. Otsutsuki Hagoromo looked at Hyuga-chen with hateful eyes. If he still had power, he would definitely destroy his eyes, and even if he did, he wouldn't let this guy who he hated so much get them. Facing Otsutsuki Hagoromo's hateful gaze, Hyuga-chen smiled slightly, then took his hateful gaze, also deprived, and reached out to dig out his 3 Samsara Sharingan. Then Hyuga-chen grabbed Otsutsuki Hagoromo and left the space in the imperial palace. Looking at the tall sacred tree that touched the sky, Hyuga Tatsu threw Otsutsuki Hagoromo, who was sealed with all the power, at the sacred tree. The branches of the sacred tree immediately wrap Otsutsuki Hagoromo, absorbing his chakra and vitality. Actually, the divine tree is a cancer to the earth, a cancer that keeps plundering the earth's energy. Hyuga-chan said softly. Glancing at the tree, Hyuga-chan entered the system space. Let the divine tree suck their chakra. After the sucking is done, Hyuga-chan devours the chakra of the divine tree again. The system space, Shueheim is teaching Sarah to refine chakra, and the relationship between the two women is much better. After staying in the system space for a few days, Hyuga-chan left the system space and saw the huge fruit at the top of the divine tree as soon as he came out. The divine tree bears fruit. Hyuga-chan's expression was slightly happy, and then he flew to the top of the divine tree. Looking at the fruit, he could feel the enormous energy in it. The people bound by the divine tree did not become something like white Zetsu. Under the control of Hyuga-chan, the divine tree absorbed all the energy in their bodies. Including the Six Paths brothers, all turned into mummified corpses. Chapter 190 Destroy the World. Would you like to eat it? Hyuga-chan stretched out his hand and poked the fruit of the god tree, and said to himself. Forget it, let's just devour it directly. The effect is the same anyway. Hyuga-chan thought about it and didn't plan to eat the fruit of the divine tree directly. Because Hyuga-chan is afraid of what will happen after eating it, such as opening the third eye on the forehead, or growing the horns of the Otsutsuki clan. Hyuga-chan is very satisfied with her current appearance and doesn't want to become a mess. And his devouring is different. As long as it is an item swallowed by Hyuga-chan, it can be integrated into the body according to Hyuga-chan's wishes, and there will be no changes beyond Hyuga-chan's control. Out to pick the fruit of the god tree, and then use Rinnegan to devour the chakra and life energy in it frantically. A few minutes later, after completely devouring the energy of the fruit of the divine tree, Hyuga-chan stood up and moved his muscles and bones, causing the air to burst. Whether it is pupil strength, chakra, and physical strength, they have all increased a lot. Hyuga-chan estimated that after swallowing the fruit of the god tree, Hyuga-chan's strength nearly doubled. Although doubling it doesn't seem like much, but Hyuga-chan was already terrifyingly strong before. Hyuga-chan was able to double because of the chakra collected by Otsutsuki Hagoromo for 700 years. Devouring the fruit of the divine tree, Hyuga-chan took out Otsutsuki Hagoromo's 39 Tomo Samsara Sharingan, and then devoured its energy 963 force. A short time, the 3 Samsara Sharingan turned into powder. Hyuga-chan's eyes changed into 9 Tomo Samsara Sharingan, the enchanting Yuhi light flashed away, and then changed back to the appearance of Tensegan again. At this time, the Rinnegan of Hyuga-chan has also become the Sharingan of 9 Tomo Samsara. Tien Chong Li Zun. Hyuga-chan let out a low voice. The momentum on his body suddenly increased tenfold, and the sacred tree made a sound of overwhelmed by Hyuga-chan's sudden burst of momentum. Hyuga-chan looked at the ground under his feet, and he felt that he could blow the earth with one punch. However, this is completely a psychological illusion caused by too much increase in strength. Hyuga-chan's current strength is not enough to destroy Earth-kun. It is very easy to blow up the moon in the sky, because the moon is hollow. Even if you don't use Tianchong Lizhen, Hyuga-chan can also break the moon. After cancelling the technique of Tenchang Lizhen, Hyuga-chan looked at the sacred tree. The fruit of the divine tree is just a side dish in Hyuga-chan's plan. Hyuga-chan's real goal is not the power of the 10 Tails divine tree, but the power to plunder the entire world. The divine tree grows with the natural energy of the world. How big is the natural energy of the world? Standing on the top of the sacred tree, Hyuga-chan used the Rinnegan God Devourer, using the sacred tree as a bridge to devour the energy of the entire world. Devouring the energy of the entire world cannot be accomplished overnight. Even if Hyuga-chan's devouring speed is very fast, it will take a long time. This Hyuga-chan is also prepared in his heart. In a blink of an eye, 3 months have passed, and the whole world has changed a lot. Looking at any corner of the world, no life exists. Whether it was the tenacious weeds or the most numerous insects, all disappeared. Even the towering tree of the god tree has fallen down now, its leaves are withered, and its branches will break if it is blown by the wind, and there is no vitality at all. The appearance of the divine tree also represents other corners of the world, and the whole world is dead silent. You are so cruel. Shui Haim's words came to mind in Hyuga Chen's mind. If you don't do it for yourself, the world will be destroyed. A world that has nothing to do with me, what's the harm in destroying it? Hyuga Chen said softly. To destroy the vitality of a world, he does not have the slightest psychological burden. Perhaps this has something to do with his natural character. He's naturally very indifferent to things he doesn't care about. The creatures of this world are dispensable things to him, and he doesn't care anyway. If he can strengthen his strength by destroying them, of course Hyuga Chen will do it. Shui Haim, in fact, you don't understand my painstaking efforts. I'm doing this for peace. Look now, there's no more fighting, the whole world is very peaceful. Hyuga Chen put on a noble look. Fuck you, you think I don't know you. Shui Haim, who is in the system space, turned over by Akugan. I'm not here to cleanse my sins, to destroy a world, what a sin. If I don't add a good reputation, it doesn't mean that I am a very sinful person. Hyuga Chen said earnestly. Shui Haim was speechless. Could this wipe out the sins you created? When the world is reborn in hundreds of millions of years, I hope they will not forget me, the founder of peace. No, I'm going to erect a monument to let the future human beings know my greatness. Hyuga Chen stretched out his hand, and a huge stele rose up with the words, the founder of world peace, Hyuga Chen. Looking at the stone tablet, Hyuga Chen nodded in satisfaction. After staying in this world for so long, it's time to leave. Hyuga Chen's eyes turned to the only place in the world where there was still an energy response. There is the dragon vein, which Hyuga Chen deliberately kept. Up at the moon, there seemed to be people from the Otsutsuki clan on the moon. Everything in Vientiane, ashes, Zenka no Tachi. Hyuga Chen took out Ryujin Jaka and opened Bankai. The fiery breath enveloped the whole world, and the originally dead earth was instantly dry and cracked countless holes. Just a few days ago, Hyuga Chen finally opened Bankai and completely mastered the power of Ryujin Jaka. Zenka no Tachi north ashes of heaven and earth. Hyuga Chen suddenly swung the knife in the direction of the moon. For a moment, the moon disappeared, wiped out by the knife gang of Zenka no Tachi's solar core temperature. Disarming Ryujin Jaka's Bankai, Hyuga Chen heads towards the dragon veins. Soon came to the location of the dragon vein. Hyuga Chen waved his hand to open the dragon vein. The chakra of the dragon vein instantly wrapped Hyuga Chen, and Hyuga Chen did not resist. Just as Hyuga Chen was about to leave this world, his eyes slammed into outer space, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Heaven is always respected. Super Bansho Tenon, Universal Pull. All of a sudden, the three guys were pulled over by Hyuga Chen, and then transported to his original world together with Hyuga Chen. Standing in the place before being teleported, Hyuga Chen took a deep breath. Looking at the restless dragon vein chakra, Hyuga Chen stretched out his hand to swallow the dragon vein chakra, and there was no dragon vein since then, but the huge chakra of the dragon vein added little strength to Hyuga Chen. At this time, Hyuga Chen looked at the three fainted guys at his feet. These three guys are the famous trio of Otsutsuki, who even Otsutsuki Kagaya, the ancestor of chakra, feared. However, Hyuga Chen was slapped with a single slap and fainted. Absorbing the power of the whole world, Hyuga Chen's strength has surpassed the 6 paths level, plus using Tianchong Lizhen to increase his strength tenfold. With a single slap, the three of them are arrogant. Stunned. It can only be said that they are unlucky. If they show up a second later, Hyuga Chen will be sent back by the dragon vein chakra, and it can only be said that their luck is not good. How do you deal with these three guys? Hyuga Chen looked at the three guys at his feet and didn't know what to do with them. He just grabbed them subconsciously before, and didn't think about what to do with them at all. Let's kill it first. The provincials wake up and make a fuss. Hyuga Chen shot 3 kunai formed by yin-yang escape from his hand, piercing the three of them's heads. Chapter 191 Worthless Otsutsuki Threesome. Shui-heim, will the system not recover the corpse? Hyuga Chen asked Shang Shui-heim. What he thought in his mind was that since these three guys are useless, it would be better to sell them to the system for some money. I have to say that Hyuga Chen is indeed a bit unscrupulous. And the trio of Otsutsuki were also a bit unlucky. They were beaten to death by Hyuga Chen without saying a single line. Although the skin on the body is very pale, it is known by luck that they are actually Africans. Of course recycling, but you have to be mentally prepared, the bodies of these three guys are worthless. Shui-heim replied. Just accept it. Hyuga Chen brought three corpses and entered the system space. Sarah was startled when she saw the three corpses, and reached out and grabbed Hyuga Chen's arm. This was the first time she had seen corpses, and she was a little scared. You estimate the price, how many exchange points these three guys are worth? Hyuga Chen patted Sarah's head, comforted Sarah, and then looked at Snowheim. This Otsutsuki Momoshiki is a bit more expensive, with 500,000 exchange points, Otsutsuki Ushiki 400,000 exchange points, and Otsutsuki Kinshiki 300,000 exchange points. Shui-heim glanced at Hyuga Chen and whispered. What? Hyuga Chen's eyes widened, wondering if he had heard it wrong. Then Hyuga Chen pulled out the mall list and found Rinnegan. The price of Rinnegan in the system is not the same, and the price is divided according to ability. Hyuga-chan, S9 Tomo Samsara Sharingan, only Samsara Sharingan ability, 10 million redemption points. Open black lens bracket 9 Tomo Samsara Sharingan by Otsutsuki Hagoromo close black lens bracket 8 million exchange points. Open black lens bracket Otsutsuki Kagaya, S Samsara Sharingan close black lens bracket, 5 million exchange points. Uchiha Madara, S Rinnegan, excluding the forehead's reincarnation Sharingan, 3 million redemption points. Open black lens bracket Rinnegan of Otsutsuki Momoshiki close black lens bracket, 2 million exchange points. Uchiha Sasuke's 6 Tomo Rinnegan, single eye, 1.2 million redemption points. Rinnegan, unknown pupil technique, awakened by oneself, 1.5 million exchange points. Hyuga Chen was a little surprised. He didn't expect that the system mall still had his Samsara Sharingan for sale, and it was still a sky-high price of 10 million exchange points. After being shocked, Hyuga Chen didn't care anymore. The system is all-encompassing, what's not there? Otsutsuki Momoshiki, S Rinnegan is worth 1.5 million exchange points, and the recovery price is only 1/3. I even gave you the body, why is it so worthless? Hyuga Chen pointed at the system panel and said to Snowheim. Sarah looked at Hyuga Chen and Shui-heim with a puzzled expression. Only Hyuga Chen and Shui-heim could see the system panel, she couldn't see it at all. Look at me, it's useless. It's not my recycling. I can't do anything about the price given by the system. Shui-heim spread her hands. Then I'll deduct the Rinnegan. After thinking about it, Hyuga Chen reached out and deducted the 2 Rinnegans from Otsutsuki Momoshiki's palm. If it's just a corpse, it's only 100,000 exchange points. Do you still sell it? Of course I sell it, it's useless for me to keep it. Hyuga Chen nodded. This fishing rod, fish basket, and this yuhi-colored ring shouldn't count. Hyuga Chen pointed to their ninja tools next to them. This one can be sold separately, but if you add up to the 3, it's only 100,000 points, so you might as well keep it. Shui-heim suggested to Hyuga Chen. Then keep it. Hyuga Chen nodded and threw the 3 ninja tools into the king's treasure to enrich his collection. Do you want to keep Otsutsuki Ura-style 6 Tomo Rinnegan? Yuki-heim asked. If I don't keep it, I would have Yomatsu Hirasaka, it's useless to keep it. Hyuga Chen shook his head. What about this fat man? Recovered together, it's just a chakra fruit. What I don't lack now is chakra. Alright then, there are a total of 800,000 exchange points. Shui-heim waved his hand, the 3 corpses disappeared, and Hyuga Chen's exchange points were also 800,000 more. Hyuga Chen nodded, and then spent 1 million exchange points to buy frozen fruits with no side effects. Those with side effects only cost 500,000 points, while those without side effects require 1 million exchange points. It can only be said that the system is really black. These three guys are still big bosses, they are so worthless. Hyuga-chan looked at the only 100,000 exchange points left, and despised the Otsutsuki trio. If it wasn't to buy frozen fruit for Conan, Hyuga-chan didn't want to sell it. Sarah and I left first. Hyuga-chan put away the frozen fruit, greeted Shueheim, and took Sarah out of the system space. This is where the dragon veins are located. Where are the dragon veins? Why can't I feel them? Sarah looked around. There are no more dragon veins. Hyuga-chan shook his head, then took Sarah's hand and said, "Let's go. I'll take you back first." Sarah bit her lip, looked at Hyuga-chan and said, "Well, I don't want to go back, I want to be with you." Hyuga-chan with crystal clear eyes, as long as Hyuga-chan said no, she would cry to Hyuga-chan. Hyuga-chan touched Sarah's smooth yui hair and said softly, "You just abandoned your people like this. I want to be with you." After hesitating for a while, Sarah looked at Hyuga-chan with firm eyes. "I don't want to go back to the cold palace. That's not what I want. Sometimes I'd rather live in an ordinary family," Sarah said with a low expression. Queen Roran's mission is actually to protect the dragon veins. Now that the dragon veins are gone, there is no need for me to be the Queen of Roran. Sarah squatted down and hugged her legs. "Actually, my queen is just a symbol at all. I can't handle national affairs or anything, and no one will let me handle it. The palace is a cage for me. If it weren't for my mother, I might not be able to handle it. Be the queen." In the days when I was with Chen and Shueheim, I was actually very satisfied. Although Shueheim bullied me before, I no longer blame her in my heart. Sarah spoke silently, but Hyuga-chan didn't even open her mouth to comfort her, sitting on the ground as her listener. Time passed slowly, and as Sarah spoke, she fell asleep in Hyuga-chan's arms. Hyuga-chan smiled lightly, and then said softly, "What a willful little queen." Hyuga-chan didn't hate Sarah's waywardness. Sarah didn't wake up until night, rubbed her eyes and quickly searched for Hyuga-chan. Looking around, she didn't find Hyuga-chan's figure. Sarah, who thought that Hyuga-chan had left, had tears in her eyes, and then they stayed like a downpour. "Chen, you big villain, you said you wouldn't leave me, your words don't count, woohoo tilde tilde. Who left you?" Hyuga-chan looked at Sarah with a black line on his head. He found that the little queen was a little bit dumb, and he was by her side, but she couldn't see it. Sarah's tears stopped. She looked down at Hyuga-chan who was lying on the ground, and asked dumbly, "Why are you lying on the ground?" "Because it's comfortable to lie down." Hyuga-chan rolled her eyes at her. He was such a big living person, but Sarah didn't see whether it was because his presence was too low, or Sarah was too stupid. Sarah smiled awkwardly, and then whispered, "It's so dark, how can people see you lying on the ground?" Chapter 192 Back to the island. "Have you really decided not to go back and be queen?" Hyuga-chan asked. Tilde. "I felt that my life before was very uncomfortable. It's not as comfortable as being with you. You seem to have a special attraction." Sarah whispered. Her voice was very low, and ordinary people couldn't hear it at all. "If you're really willing to give up the queen's position, come with me," Hyuga-chan said while patting Sarah's head. "Really?" Sarah asked, jumping up and jumping on Hyuga-chan. Immediately, Sarah's face was full of yuhi, but she didn't get up. Instead, she fell into Hyuga-chan's arms. She felt that Hyuga-chan's body had a special smell, which was very nice and attractive. Sarah lay on top of him, not willing to get up at all. Hyuga-chan smiled helplessly. Tsunade and the others also liked to lie on top of him. Sometimes they didn't get up for a long time, because of the attraction of the opposite sex. If Hyuga-chan was given a chance to start over, Hyuga-chan would definitely tell the system. "Give me a little more. Gollum tilde gollum tilde." Sarah's face was Yuhi, covering her stomach. She hadn't eaten for a long time. She was a little hungry. Hyuga-chen looked at Sarah with Yuhi's face, and laughed. Sarah's cheeks became more Yuhi because of Hyuga-chan's laughter. Although the stomach growling was nothing, it was a bit embarrassing in the eyes of girls, especially when the stomach growl was heard by others. Sarah slapped Hyuga-chen angrily, then raised her face and said, "I didn't see that this queen was hungry, so why don't you prepare food for this queen?" "Is the queen hungry? Why don't I know?" Hyuga-chen looked at Sarah, dazedly. "Damn Tilda." Sarah's mouth bulged, her heart very uneasy. After playing around for a while, Hyuga-chen stopped teasing her and caught a rabbit, which was golden, crispy and fragrant. Sarah was very happy to eat it. "I've decided that you will be the queen's royal chef in the future, specializing in preparing meals for this queen." Sarah raised her head. Hyuga-chen reached out and grabbed Sarah and slapped her ass a few times. Sarah calmed down and looked at Hyuga-chen pitifully, tears flashing in her eyes. "From today onwards, you are my royal maid, and you will be pinching my shoulders and beating my back. Did you hear that?" "HMPH Tilda, I'm not your maid." Sarah snorted, turning her head away from Hyuga-chen's hateful face. Talk and laugh with Sarah, and the night is over. Early the next morning, Sarah took Hyuga-chen and walked towards the palace. Although she was no longer ready to be the queen, it was impossible for her to quit the job. Although Sarah was a bit willful, she would not so irresponsible. Came to the palace, summoned Roran's ministers, and Sarah immediately announced her abdication. And Roran's ministers didn't even bother to dissuade him. Looking at Sarah's abdication, Hyuga-chen felt like a joke, but it is understandable that Sarah is actually a mascot in Roran, and her power has been emptied by the minister below. Now that Sarah is about to abdicate, they can't wait. How could it be discouraged? "Sarah, I feel that you are the same queen as you are. No wonder you chose not to be a queen and leave with me." "Humph, whoever said that? I'm still very authoritative," Sarah said with a sniff of her nose, but she didn't even believe what she said. "I see your ministers, they all look like 2 or 5 boys, or I will help you kill them," Hyuga-chen suggested. "Don't, although I also see them unhappy, but without them, Roran also fell apart," Sarah said quickly. Hyuga-chen smiled. It is not too soon for Roran to be destroyed. Anyway, when the plot started, there was already no Roran as a country. It is estimated that in the next few years, Roran will no longer exist. Estimated that Roran was destroyed by others during the Third Ninja World War. The target is most likely the Land of Winds. "Let's go. Let's leave." Hyuga-chen shook his head, not thinking about that anymore. "Yeah." Sarah nodded, looked back at the palace where she had lived for 12 years, and left with Hyuga-chen. "Only when I came out of Roran country did I realize how small Roran is," Sarah said softly, looking at the endless desert. "Don't be emotional, let's go." Hyuga-chen shook his head. After staying in the parallel world for a few months, Hyuga-chen thought about Tsunade and the others a little. "What's the hurry? Are you in a hurry to meet your good friend?" Sarah pouted and said jealously. "Of course, although it may only be a few days for them, but for me, I haven't seen them for a few months, of course I miss them," Hyuga-chen said as a matter of course. "Humph." Sarah snorted coldly, then shook off Hyuga-chen's hand and strode forward. "Damn Hyuga-chen, I decided to ignore you for a month, but a month seems to be too long, so one day. An hour," Sarah thought to herself. Hyuga-chen looked at Sarah, who was being petty, with a faint smile, and followed behind. Hyuga-chen is used to Sarah's petty temper behavior, and it is estimated that Sarah will take the initiative to talk to him after a while. Sure enough, within 5 minutes, Sarah stopped and said with a pout, "I don't know how to coax me, I really don't know how you found a girlfriend." "There's no way, I'm born with a handsome face, and all my girlfriends will come to you automatically." Hyuga-chen blew the sea and said narcissistically. "Humph, I'm so narcissistic that I don't have any friends." Sarah turned her head. Narcissism, am I not handsome? Hyuga-chen moved closer to Sarah, and the distance between the two sides was no more than 3 centimeters. Yuhi's face was very moist, and she pushed Hyuga-chan's body away. What are you doing so close to me? Are you trying to be a hooligan? Sarah said loudly. That's right, I'm really playing a hooligan. Hyuga-chen nodded. You actually accepted 5.5. Sarah stared at Hyuga-chen with wide eyes. There's nothing to admit, I'll take you away. At your forward speed, it is estimated that you will reach next year. Hyuga-chen reached out and hugged Sarah and flew into the sky. How does it feel to be in the sky? So. Sarah leaned against Hyuga-chen's arms. Her eyes were excited, but her mouth was very disgusting, typical of her dislike of integrity. Soon Hyuga-chen took Sarah back to the island of the land of water. Hyuga-chen came back. When they saw Sarah, their faces were immediately pulled down, and their expressions were very ugly. After going out for a few days, they brought back another girl. Especially Konan, looking at Hyuga-chen hugging a girl about her age, her mouth bulged. She didn't look at Hyuga-chen angrily, and looked at Sarah with hostile eyes. Chapter 193 Frozen Fruit. Okay, Hyuga-chen, it's only been a few days since you went out, and yet another girl came back. Is it because you are too daring, or Kushina, can't carry the knife? Chen, you will get hit with a hatchet like this. Makoto looked at Hyuga-chen, gently. Hyuga-chen looked at Makoto's gentle smile, and instead of feeling warm, she felt a little bit of coolness. Makoto, don't look at me like that, I'm a little scared. Hyuga-chen sneered. I don't know if it was an illusion. Hyuga-chen seemed to see Brother Cheng in the heaven beckoning to him. Hey Tilda, you know you're afraid too. Tsunade crossed his arms and looked at Hyuga-chen with a sneer. Konan, brother, I've brought you a good thing. Looking at the 3 girls who were staring at them, Hyuga-chen could only change the subject. HMPH Tilda. Konan was angry, ignoring him at all. Hyuga-chen shook his head in disappointment. It seems that you don't want Konan, so I can only give Terumi-May the gift. Who said I didn't want it? Konan became anxious when he heard it. Hyuga-chen smiled and stopped teasing Konan, took out the frozen fruit from the system backpack and handed it to Konan. 12 inches. This fruit seems very similar to the rockberry fruit I have eaten. Kushina looked at the frozen fruit. This is also a devil fruit. Frozen fruit and rockberry are the same grade of devil fruit. Hyuga-chen said. Kushina got Yoden lava style after eating this thing. Tsunade asked curiously. That's not Yoden lava style but directly creating magma, which looks the same as Yoden lava style but there is actually a big gap. Energy, use Senpo, sage art. Hyuga-chen said. Let people get Kekkei Genkei directly, I want it too. Terumi-May looked at Hyuga-chen with her big eyes sparkling. Look at me, it's useless, I only have this fruit. Hyuga-chen said helplessly. If his exchange points are enough, Hyuga-chen doesn't mind exchanging one for Terumi-May, but he has 100,000 exchange points now and can only buy 1 insect fruit with side effects. In fact, Hyuga-chen still has a flower fruit in his hand, but the flower fruit has been forgotten by Hyuga-chen in the corner. If you can't see it, Hyuga-chen may never remember it. When Terumi-May heard this, she quickly looked at Konan and looked at her pitifully. Konan snorted proudly, then ignored the poor Terumi-May and bit down on the frozen fruit. It looked like a piece of fruit made of hard ice, and it seemed to be very hard, but Konan bit down a piece of the flesh in one bite. Then Konan's face turned blue and he looked at Hyuga-chen with a grudge. Ha ha ha. Kushina laughed when she saw Konan's appearance. She had the most say in how bad the devil fruit was. Now Kushina can't help shivering when she thinks of the scene at that time. Now seeing Konan enjoying the taste of devil fruit, Kushina couldn't help but gloat. Brother, you're not lying to me, are you? It's really unpalatable, even worse than the meal cooked by Kushina's sister. Konan said with a bitter face. Damn Konan. Kushina's laughter stopped abruptly and looked at Konan angrily. I'm really sorry that the food I made was not delicious. Devil fruit tastes like this. It was the same when I ate it. I'll go get you some water. You can take it easy. Hyuga-chen pinched Conan's bitter face. Phew tilde. Terumi May patted the still-growing baby chestnut and said with a sigh of relief, fortunately I didn't eat it. After finishing speaking, she looked at Conan with glee, and Terumi May looked happy when Conan looked so bitter. Humph. You are jealous, you have to eat as much as you want. Conan snorted softly. You tilde. Terumi May's angry little face turned to Yuhi, reached out and grabbed the frozen fruit that Conan had bitten in, and then took a hard bite. The bitter taste of the frozen fruit, Terumi May swallowed it, then made a face at Conan, very proud. Ah, Terumi May, I'm not finished with you. Conan exclaimed. That Terumi May, in fact, frozen fruit, only the first bite is effective. Hyuga-chen reminded. Ah, Terumi May threw the frozen fruit in her hand, and lay on the beach with no love. Deserved, Conan said gloatingly. Water, give me water, it's unpalatable. Terumi May shouted while lying on the beach. Makoto handed Terumi May a glass of water. Terumi May quickly got up to take it, and then kept gargling, but the smell of devil fruit is not so easy to eliminate. Is it really that bad? Tsunade picked up the frozen fruit on the ground. Why don't you try it? Kushina said with a smirk. Forget it, looking at your uneasy and kind smile, I won't taste it. Tsunade is not stupid, Conan and Terumi May have already tried it out, she is not that hard-headed yet. After a long time, the recovered Conan exhaled, and the icy cold made the air freeze. Conan froze for a moment, then stretched out his hand, and an ice blade was created out of thin air. Wow! Terumi May exclaimed, eyes full of envy. Hyoten ice style of the Mizunoyuki family, I am so envious. Conan threw the ice blade into the sea with all his might, and the sea water in a radius of 100 meters was completely frozen into solid ice. So powerful, Conan said in surprise. She didn't use much power at all, and she froze the sea with a radius of 100 meters. If she used all her strength, she felt that she could freeze an island. It's so enviable to be able to use Hyoten ice style without a hand seal, Tsunade said, wrapping his arms around Conan's shoulders. It's cool to be leaning against Conan, which is a mobile air conditioner in the heat of summer. Yes, it's not as solid as my rock berries, but it's pretty good. Kushina patted Conan on the shoulder. I think my frozen fruit is powerful, Conan said unconvinced. The two women exchanged eyes for a while, then looked at Hyuga-chen. Chen, brother, who do you think is the best? What's up for grabs is the fruit of the same level, no matter what ability you have, it depends on the person who uses it. Hyuga-chen said helplessly, not knowing what was up for grabs. By the way, Makoto, this knife is for you. Hyuga-chen took out the Fudo Yukun and handed it to Makoto. Isn't this the Fudo soul that Tsunade-san gave you? No, but this Fudo soul sword is no different from the one given by Tsunade. Hyuga-chen explained. Hyuga-chen also talked about the parallel world with the girls in general. The girls also expressed their surprise. It was the first time they heard the term parallel world. After asking in detail, Tsunade and the others took Sarah aside to talk, and warned Hyuga-chen not to eavesdrop. Hyuga-chen spreads his hands, could he still eavesdrop? To listen is to listen openly. Chapter 194. Bring the women into the system space. Lying on the soft sand, with the sea breeze blowing, Hyuga-chen soon fell asleep. But soon, Hyuga-chen was shaken by several girls. What's wrong? Hyuga-chen opened his eyes and looked at the menacing girls. What's wrong? Let me ask you, who is Shueheim? Kushina asked while pinching her waist. You are really capable, you know that Kanaya hides her beauty. Tsunade folded his arms and looked at Hyuga-chen with a sneer. Hyuga-chen glared at Sarah and said, Shueheim is the manager of my world, she has no way to leave that world, you can understand it as the will of the world. Hyuga-chen made up and explained to the girls. Really, how do I feel like you're lying to me? Kushina stared at him tightly, and had to say that Kushina's sixth sense was very keen. Do I have to lie to you? Hyuga-chan asked rhetorically. Humph. If you pass the test, you can't hide anything from us in the future. Kushina said angrily. Then take us on a tour of your world, shouldn't it be a problem? Makoto asked. Of course, no problem. Hyuga-chan nodded, and then brought the girls into the system space. Shueheim looked at Hyuga-chan with so many people coming in, his expression was slightly stunned, and then he smiled and said hello to the girls. After introducing each other, the girls left Hyuga-chan aside and chatted with enthusiasm. Hyuga-chan didn't know why they were able to chat so happily not long after they met. Sitting next to them and listening to what they were talking about for a while, Hyuga-chan turned around and left, because everything they were talking about was related to him. Looking at the black lines on Hyuga-chan's head, you can tell that they are definitely not complimenting him. Looking at the boisterous Kushina and Tsunade, Hyuga-chan decided to teach them a good lesson tonight and make them beg for mercy. Kushina and Tsunade were still happily talking about Hyuga-chan's embarrassing story, not knowing that they were going to be unlucky tonight, and they probably wouldn't be able to get out of bed tomorrow morning. The bored Hyuga-chan found a place to lie down, opened the system mall panel, and began to browse the items in it. What's the most expensive in the system mall? Hyuga-chan was a little curious, because he was afraid of hurting his heart. Hyuga-chan rarely looked at the products in the system mall. Hyuga-chan asked the system to list the most expensive items. Invincible 99,999. Exchange points. Hyuga-chan found that he couldn't see his head, and the series of zeros shaking made him dizzy. At this price, I don't want to buy it at all. Hyuga-chan complained. It's really shocking. A poor guy like me dares to look at the most expensive products. It's really inflated. Hyuga-chan shook his head and said. But after looking at the introduction, Hyuga-chan knows why it is so expensive. After buying Invincible, it is unreasonable and directly invincible. After that, I checked the 3000 avenues, chaos beads, Pengu axe and other products. Hyuga-chan found that this place was not suitable for him, so don't look at it. Closing down the system mall with a congested heart, Hyuga-chan looks like a bitter melon, but Hyuga-chan also has a goal in his heart. We must find a way to get the most expensive Invincible, and when the time comes, any Dao, Pengu, and Wangtian Emperor will all kneel in front of him. Although the string of zeros made him very hard, but he must have a dream in life. Hyuga-chan's goal is to get that Invincible, and then the heavens and the world are invincible only for me. System lottery can draw anything, just in case one day Hyuga-chan loses the shitluck and draws this most valuable ability at once. So be a man to have a little dream, in case it comes true. Hyuga-chan found a place to sleep, and when he woke up and went back to find Tsunade and the others, he was speechless and found that they were still chatting with interest. Let's go, let's go. Stop talking and leave first. Hyuga-chan said. Why are you leaving? I feel good here. Yes, the scenery here is so good, the air is fresh, and the food is delicious, I don't want to leave. Kushina looked at Hyuga-chan with big watery eyes. Shueheim is quite lonely here alone, let's stay with her. Hyuga-chan was speechless, and he was reluctant to leave because of the system space, but let them be happy. If you want to be here, just stay here. Tsunade, Kushina, Makoto, come here, I have something important to talk to you about. Hyuga-chan looked at Tsunade and the three of them with a serious expression. What's the matter? Seeing Hyuga Tatsu's serious expression, Tsunade and the others also turned serious. You'll know when you come here. Hyuga-chan walked towards the castle built by Snoheim not far away with a serious face. Tsunade's three girls followed with puzzled faces. When the three girls came to the castle, the gate of the castle slammed shut, and the bright castle became extremely dark. Ha ha ha, you dare to speak ill of me, have you figured out how to be cleaned up by me? Hyuga-chan suddenly appeared behind them, startling them. You big rascal, you scared me to death. Kushina hit Hyuga-chan angrily. Don't look at Kushina's carelessness. In fact, she is not very courageous. The sudden darkness of Hyuga-chan just now, coupled with the weird laughter of Hyuga-chan, made Kushina almost scream out of fright. It's really boring. Tsunade gave Hyuga-chan a contemptuous look. It's completely a child's trick, so I can only scare Kushina. Makoto covered his mouth and chuckled. Makoto, don't talk nonsense, I'm not afraid. Kushina said dissatisfied. I'm not looking for you guys to talk about this. Hyuga-chan had a black line. Then what are you looking for from us? Hyuga-chan smiled, and then used space teleportation to bring the three girls to a warm room, and the most attractive thing in the whole room was the huge chuang. Tsunade's three girls had Yuhi on their faces, as if realizing something. Hyuga-chan grabbed the shyest Makoto and kissed Makoto's soft lips. Tsunade and Kushina looked at each other, then quietly ran towards the door of the room. After running to the door, they found that the door could not be opened at all. Hyuga-chan smiled. In the system space, Hyuga-chan, like Shueheim, has absolute control over the system space. Tsunade and Kushina want to run, but also ask him if he agrees. Tsunade and Kushina came back helplessly. Hyuga-chan and Makoto had already started a fierce battle. Tsunade and Kushina were not spared after that. Especially Hyuga-chan also took special care of Tsunade and Kushina. Haim, who was chatting with Conan and the others outside, suddenly turned to Yuhi. Sister Shueheim, your face looks like Yuhi. Terumi-May pointed at Shueheim's face and said. Sarah and Conan looked at Shueheim with the same doubts, not understanding why she looked at Yuhi. It's okay, it's okay. Shueheim waved his hands again and again. Chapter 195 Crooked Naoki. They lived here for 3 years, and I'm feeling a little bit emotional. Let's move into the system space. Hyuga-chan looked at the island where they lived. Now that all the girls want to stay in the system space, this island is naturally uninhabited. Using Bansho Tenon universal pull without affecting the island, pull the island up from the ocean floor and bring it into the system space. After thinking about it, Hyuga-chan turned the island into a floating island, floating in the sky. Isn't this the island we live on? You moved it in, Tsunade said, looking at the island in the sky. That's right. Hyuga-chan nodded, then brought the girls to the island. Everything on the island is the same as before, nothing has changed. The girls decided to live on this floating island in the future, and they would go down there and play, and then Kushina, Makoto and the others took Shueheim to rearrange the floating island. Hyuga-chan smiled, let them do whatever they want. As long as they like it. Leaving the system space, Hyuga-chan glanced at the boundless sea, then turned into a golden flash and flew towards the mainland. Coming to the land of fire, Hyuga-chan finds that he seems to have nowhere to go. Go to see Naoki first, then go to Konoha to play, just to meet an old classmate. Hyuga-chan thought about it and decided the planned route. Of the spatial coordinates left on the rope 760 tree, Hyuga-chan can easily perceive his position, and Hyuga-chan did not use the space to teleport, but walked slowly. During the day, I walked slowly, and at night, I went to the system space, and asked Tsunade and the others to discuss the important matter of human reproduction. Half a month later, Hyuga-chan crossed the country of fire and came to the country of Taki. That's right, now Naoki is staying in Taki no country. When Hyuga-chan saw Naoki, he couldn't believe he saw that this guy was Naoki. Nearly 2 meters tall, he is much taller than Hyuga-chan. He has a strong back and a sturdy face. He looks like a big man in his 30s. Coordinates, Hyuga-chan doesn't even know him anymore. Chen, why are you here? Naoki was very happy when he saw Hyuga-chan, and he hugged Hyuga-chan as a bear. Hyuga-chan hurriedly pushed Naoki away in disgust, but he only hugged women, not men. I said Naoki, I remember the last time I brought Tsunade to see you, 3 years ago, right? It's only been more than 3 years, how did you look like this? What's wrong? I think it's pretty good, very manly. Naoki thinks he looks pretty good, this is a real man, much better than Hyuga-chen's little white face. Naoki, you don't have a girlfriend yet. Hyuga-chen said affirmatively. How do you know? Are you keeping an eye on me? Fuck you, you're not a beauty, I'm paying attention to what you're doing. Do you think you can find a girlfriend just like you? Hyuga-chen struck. Why can't I find a girlfriend? I just don't want to. There are many little girls who are obsessed with me. Naoki retorted with Yuhi's expression on his face. Haha tilde tilde. Hyuga-chen laughed twice. His eyes were full of contempt. It is estimated that only the blind can see him. You actually have time to see me, my sister? Naoki asked, looking back. If your sister sees your face, she probably doesn't want to see you. You look too anxious. Hyuga-chen shook his head and said. By the way, why do you still live in this small shabby house? Aren't you afraid of leaking rain on a rainy day? Hyuga-chen pointed to the house where Naoki lived. It was tattered, with several holes. If there was a strong wind, it would probably be knocked down by him. I call it frugality, you don't understand. Naoki said, slightly embarrassed. Really? Hyuga-chen glanced at him and said lightly, isn't this poor? Hyuga-chen's words turned into sharp blades and stabbed at Naoki's little heart. These words were too heart-wrenching. Naoki glanced at Hyuga-chen resentfully, then ran to the corner to draw circles. Hyuga-chen was shivered by Naoki's resentful eyes. You can never imagine what it would be like to be a big man with a big 5'3" ruff, staring at you with the eyes of a resentful woman. The thought of killing him, Hyuga-chen walked into Naoki's hut. After entering, he realized that the hut was not only rudimentary on the outside, but indescribably rudimentary on the inside, only a wooden bed could see. I don't think even mice dare to visit your house. Hyuga-chen complained. Hey, Naoki scratched his head and smirked, his face a little embarrassed. After all, it was too embarrassing to be mixed up like this. Naoki, you are not weak now, why are you so miserable? Hyuga-chen asked curiously. He can clearly feel that Naoki's strength is quasi-cage level, and this kind of strength can be mixed so badly, there is no one except Naoki. Because I can't farm, so I. Wait, you said you farm for a living. Hyuga-chen stared at Naoki with wide eyes, trying to see if he was stupid. With all your strength, you can hunt better than this one. Running to farm, Hyuga-chen doesn't know what his brain circuit is. Don't ninjas make money from missions? You can go to the underground black market to pick up missions. Even if you don't want to do missions, go hunting. You have to go farming. Have you ever learned farming? I think you'd better go raising pigs. Hyuga-chen kept complaining. Actually, I raised pigs, but they all died. Naoki scratched his head and said. Hyuga-chen was speechless. Do you drink water? Naoki picked up the teapot next to him, poured it out and found that there was no water, feeling a little embarrassed. You wait, I'll burn it for you. Naoki hand sealed with both hands, sprayed water into the kettle from his mouth, and then used a Kaden fire style to start boiling the water. No, use it, Hyuga-chen said word by word with black lines all over his head. Can he drink the water? Naoki spit out. Hyuga-chen now has the heart to kill Naoki, a second-hand guy. This guy is getting more and more second. When I was at the Jonin school, I remember that he was not so second. Oh. Then do you eat? I don't have anything to entertain you here. Naoki said embarrassedly, and he was almost embarrassed to death today. I've already seen it. Hyuga-chen said silently, there was not even a grain of rice in the rice jar. What did he bring to entertain himself? To be honest, you are the most pitiful ninja I've ever seen. You can take the 10 million taels. Don't be polite to brother, brother has money. Hyuga-chen said in a big voice. What do you think of me? How can I, Naoki, ask for your money? Get it back quickly. Naoki frowned, with a dignified look on his face. Alas, since you don't accept it, I won't force you to. Hyuga-chen stared at Naoki in astonishment. I saw Naoki snatching the 10 million taels away, and said to himself, for the sake of the old lady, I will accept it, and don't do this in the future. Chapter 196 Tsunade. Sorry. I don't have a brother. Okay Naoki, I didn't expect you to have such a thick skin over the years. You can compare to me. Hyuga-chan patted Naoki on the shoulder and said. That is, I have grown the fastest in these years. Naoki said proudly, because Naoki is too poor. Naoki often eats and drinks around, and now Tilda has given up his face. The most annoying person in 100 miles, it is definitely Naoki. I'm going to Konoha to play, and I'll meet an old classmate by the way. Would you like to join us? Hyuga-chan asked while sitting on the bench with one missing leg, looking at Naoki. Naoki was silent after hearing the words, and after a long time Naoki shook his head and said, forget it. I'm not going. What was the situation back then? Hyuga-chan asked curiously. The past is gone, and I don't want to mention it. Naoki closed his eyes, his expression a little painful. He had watched with his own eyes. The only remaining members of their Senju clan died under the butcher knife of the Anbu ninja. If you don't want to talk, forget it. Hyuga-chan didn't ask. He was never the one who broke the casserole and asked to the end. What happened to my old sister? Why didn't I come with you? Naoki forced those memories into his heart and changed the subject. Wait, Hyuga-chan said, then entered the system space, and after a while, he brought Tsunade out. Makoto, Kushina and the others followed. Hello, Makoto, Kushina and Konan, do you know who these two little girls are? Naoki greeted excitedly. Who are you, Naoki? Tsunade frowned at the burly man. PFF ha ha ha. Hyuga-chan couldn't help it anymore and burst out laughing. Naoki looked depressed. His old sister, even his younger brother, didn't know. Didn't you mean to meet Naoki? Who is this gorilla? Kushina asked, poking at Hyuga-chan's arm. Hearing Kushina describe him as a gorilla, Naoki turned gray and was devastated. This is not what he wants to look like, and looks are out of control. I'm Naoki, you guys don't even know me anymore. Naoki squatted on the ground with a grudge and drew circles. What, are you Naoki? Tsunade, Makoto, Kushina, Konan all looked at Naoki in shock. This is Tsunade's sister's younger brother. Is it his own? Shouldn't he be adopted? Sarah said unceremoniously. That's right, it's not a style of painting at all. If you want to say that this is Tsunade's uncle, I also believe it. Terumi May nodded. Adopt a child, uncle. The 4 words crushed Naoki all at once. It was so hurtful that he completely ignored his feelings. Are you really Naoki? After a long while, Tsunade suppressed the shock in his heart and asked incredulously. Could it be a mutation? Kushina complained, obviously unacceptable. Past, Naoki was pretty handsome, not too tall, not even comparable to some girls, but now he has transformed into a strong man in his 30s, not to mention Kushina and the others, even Tsunade can't accept it. I'm really Naoki, what's wrong with me? This is a real man. You look at Hyuga-chan, she's pure and white, she's just a little white face. Naoki said dissatisfied. I'll go to your little white face. Hyuga-chan kicked this guy out with one kick. He was obviously crippled, still a man. Konan reached out and pulled Tsunade's clothes and asked softly, Sister Tsunade, is Naoki your brother? Faced with Konan's skeptical tone, Tsunade said yes without hesitation if it was before. But now, looking at Naoki's appearance, she also began to doubt. Probably my brother. Tsunade said in an uncertain tone. Sister, I'm really your brother. Naoki, who seemed to be in his 30s, but called her sister, Tsunade shook his head and said, I am sorry Naoki, but I don't have a younger brother. When Naoki heard this, he looked at Hyuga-chan with tears in his eyes. Naoki's gaze gave him a chill, resisting the urge to give him a kick. Hyuga-chan said lightly, if I had a younger brother like you, I wouldn't recognize you. After laughing for a while, Tsunade accepted this anxious-looking younger brother, but the girls still inevitably complained about Naoki. Tears in Naoki's eyes as he heard the women's heartbreaking words. Fortunately, it didn't take long for Tsunade and the others to leave, and they didn't return to the system space. They wanted to play in the ninja world. In fact, it was Tsunade's gambling addiction. He wanted to find a casino to gamble a few times, but Hyuga-chan didn't object. With the strength of the girls, there was no need for Hyuga-chan to worry about their safety. And they also have Hyuga-chan's transcribed seal, Gao Tianyuan, so Hyuga-chan is more at ease. After Tsunade and the others left, Hyuga Tatsu patted Naoki on the shoulder and shook his head. "What do you mean, are you comforting me?" Hyuga-chan shook his head without hesitation and said, "No, I'm actually admiring your courage. It's not easy to live like this." Saying that, Hyuga-chan showed admiration. Naoki wants to vomit blood. Although he is not handsome now, he is not ugly either. All right, it's a little bit ugly, but it's not to the point where I can't live. Hyuga-chan is too exaggerated. Okay, I won't talk to you anymore. Sitting on the lame stool, Hyuga-chan took out a bottle of medicine and put it on the table. "Give you a good thing, it will be good for you after using it, and maybe it can also awaken Mokuden wood style." "Really or not, you're not lying to me, are you?" Naoki looked suspicious. "When have I lied to you? Since you don't want it, bring it here." Hyuga-chan gestured to take it back. Seeing this, Naoki immediately took the potion in his hand. No matter whether Hyuga-chan lied to him or not, Hyuga-chan wouldn't harm him anyway. "How does this work?" "Drink and it's over." Hyuga-chan tapped the table lightly. He swears that he really just tapped the table lightly, and then the table fell apart. "Your stuff here is so fragile, go." Hyuga-chan shook his head and left. "Wait, I'm going to Konoha with you," Naoki shouted. Hyuga-chan turned around, looked at Naoki and said, "Didn't you say you can't go? Why are you going now?" "I left Konoha when I was 10 years old, just after the Second Ninja War. It's been more than 8 years now. It's time to go back and see my old classmates. I don't know that they saw me as a dead person. Will you be surprised?" Naoki was quite emotional. When Naoki sighed, Hyuga-chan's figure had already gone far, and Naoki, who had recovered, quickly chased after him. "Why didn't you wait for me?" Naoki complained. "I see you sighing there, so I won't bother you. You don't know the good heart. You." "Okay, don't talk nonsense, let's go." Hyuga-chan interrupted what Naoki was about to say. Naoki followed very depressedly. Chapter 197. Back to Konoha. "Boss, open 2 rooms, the most luxurious one," Hyuga-chan said to the boss when he came to a hotel. "Okay." The owner of the hotel responded quickly. Hyuga-chan turned to Naoki and said, "Hurry up and pay." "Why do you want me to pay? You are so rich, yet you bully me, a poor man." Standing in a hotel, Naoki reluctantly paid. "When your sister and the others left, they took all the money, and I don't have a penny now." Hyuga-chan spread his hands and said. Naoki glanced at Hyuga-chan sympathetically after hearing the words. The money was in the hands of his old sister, would there be any left? "How much did you take?" Naoki asked curiously. If Hyuga-chan can give him 10 million taels, it must be very rich. "Not much, more than 100 billion. Hyuga-chan said lightly, as if he was talking about 1,000 taels. "Wow, more than 100 billion, how many bowls of ramen can you eat?" Naoki said in shock. Hyuga-chan gave him a look of contempt. "It's really worthless, you have 100 billion and you still eat ramen. Why do you want to add a dish?" The owner of the hotel despised Hyuga-chan and the two of them. The two were young, but the bullshit was loud, but after all, these two were guests, and he didn't like to slap them in the face. Stayed here for one night and continued on our way the next day. A few days later, Hyuga-chan and Naoki came to Konoha's gate. Naoki looked at Konoha, who was no different from before, with a look of emotion on his face. "Don't be emotional, go in." Hyuga-chan pulled Naoki and stepped into Konoha village, and the ninja guarding the gate didn't seem to see the two of them at all. Come in so easily, aren't you Konoha's missing nin? Why didn't they stop you? Don't you know that there is a magic in this world called demonic illusion? So you used demonic illusion. Naoki scratched his head. Is it really okay to say we're swaggering into Konoha like this? Naoki looked confused. It's okay. Hyuga-chen waved his hand indifferently. He was not afraid of being discovered. Even if the third-generation Hokage discovered that he was in Konoha, he couldn't do anything to him. Hyuga-chen and Naoki were swaggering down the street. The hidden Anbu naturally found them, and hurried to report to Hokage. 3 generations of Hokage, Sama, missing nin Hyuga-chen appeared in Konoha with an unidentified person by his side. I don't know what to do. The pipe in the mouth of the third-generation Hokage fell to the ground, and his expression was stunned. As long as he doesn't do anything that harms Konoha, leave him alone for the time being, and don't let people monitor him. After being stunned for a long time, the 3 generations of Hokage said. Yes. Anbu Ninja nodded before leaving the Hokage office. Alas. 3 generations of Hokage sighed, his face full of sadness. He didn't know whether Hyuga-chen appeared in the village, whether it was good or bad. It can only be like this for the time being. If he does something that endangers the village, even if he is desperate, I will stop him. When he said these words, the third-generation Hokage looked very determined. Hyuga-chen doesn't know what the 3 generations of Hokage are thinking, and has no interest in knowing. He is now squatting on the street of Konoha, holding a few kushimaru in his hand, looking at the beauty. I have to say that there are more beauties in Konoha, much more than other places. If my sister knew that you were so wretched, she would definitely kill you and beat you into patties, said Naoki, who was squatting beside Hyuga-chen. Everyone has a love for beauty. Is it illegal for me to see beautiful women? Your eyes are straighter than mine, so what qualifications do you have to say about me? Hyuga-chen glanced at Naoki with contempt, and then continued to look at the beautiful scenery on the street. Just like men like to look at beautiful women also like to look at handsome men. Many girls, MILFs, and lowly stopped on the street, and their eyes were secretly aimed at Hyuga-chen. There were even a few daring ones who ran over to chat with Hyuga-chen. And the Naoki next to Hyuga-chen is completely reduced to a background board, setting off the green leaves of flowers. Women nowadays have no taste. Naoki said dissatisfiedly. No, I think their taste is normal. Hyuga-chen immediately retorted, if you can like Naoki, that's called abnormal taste. Yuhi, look, there is a very handsome man there, the uncle next to him, a bit unpleasant. Mitarashi Enko took Kurenai Yuhi's hand and pointed in the direction of Hyuga-chen. I saw it. Kurenai Yuhi cheeks Yuhi said. Wow Yuhi, your face is so Yuhi. Could it be that you like someone? Enko joked. Bullshit, hurry back. If my father knew that I had sneaked out, he would have reprimanded me severely. Kurenai Yuhi sneered at Yuhi, then pulled Mitarashi Enko away quickly. Hyuga-chen didn't see Kurenai Yuhi and Mitarashi Enko, 2 young girls, lowly. After all, there were so many people on the street, Hyuga-chen couldn't look at each of them, and even if he did see them, he might not be able to recognize them. Let's go, everyone treats us as perverts. Naoki dragged Hyuga-chen away, looking at the people around him pointing. Naoki's face still didn't stand the test. That's taking you as a pervert. I'm so handsome, how could anyone treat me as a pervert? Hyuga-chen said dissatisfiedly. Look at the eyes of the men around you, and they all want to kill you. Naoki pointed at the men with fierce eyes. The faces of these people are really ugly. Hyuga-chen shook his head. Naoki is speechless. You have seduced other people's wife and girlfriend away. Do you still expect people to smile at you? It's good not to beat you. Go to the ninja school and meet Ueno-sensei. Naoki pulled Hyuga-chen and headed to the ninja school. When I arrived at the ninja school, I found that the ninja school was closed, and there was no one at all. Chen, do you know where Ueno-sensei lives? You ask me, who do I ask? You ask someone else. Hyuga-chen spread his hands. Asked a teacher at a school, they also found out about Ueno-sensei's home, and went straight to his home. When I came to Ueno-sensei's house, I found that 0.6 locked the door, and there was no one at home. Aren't you home? Where did Ueno-sensei go? Naoki said to himself. Come back another day. Let's find a place to stay now. Hyuga-chen pulled Naoki away, then found a small hotel and stayed there. I didn't expect Shikaku, Minato and the others to go on the mission, it's really a coincidence. Naoki complained. Waiting for Hyuga-chan's reply for a long time, Naoki looked in Hyuga-chan's direction and found that Hyuga-chan had disappeared. Where are you going? Naoki scratched his head, waited for a while without seeing Hyuga-chan come back, and then Naoki went back to his own room. Of course Hyuga-chan entered the system space, and he was chatting with Shueheim at this time. Chat with a beautiful girl like Snowheim than to chat with a big guy like Naoki. Chapter 198 Ichiraku Ramen Shop. Shueheim, your face is so white and tender. Let me touch it. Hyuga-chen unceremoniously pinched it. Shueheim's small face was smug Yuhi, and she glared at Hyuga-chen with shame and anger, but she did not stop Hyuga-chen's wolf claws. On the contrary, she enjoyed Hyuga-chen's kneading in her heart. Just when Hyuga-chen bullied Shueheim and was happy, a flash of light flashed. Tsunade and the others returned to the system space. It is not surprising that they can enter the system space. Before, Hyuga-chen gave them a free access to the system space. What's wrong? Looking at Tsunade, you seem a little unhappy. Hyuga-chen looked at Tsunade suspiciously. Can you be happy after losing billions? Kushina said gloatingly. Billions. Hyuga-chen couldn't help but open his mouth after hearing this. In just a few days, he had already lost billions. It's the first time I've seen a person with such bad luck in gambling, who still gambles so much. Terumi May complained. Roran's annual financial income is not as much as Tsunade's sister has lost these days. Sarah's words pierced Tsunade's heart again. Wow, you bastards, you haven't gambled for a few years, but I didn't expect to gamble so much. Hyuga-chen felt a tinge of heartbreak. Tsunade's face turned Yuhi's face, and he retorted, what is a loser? I can win back everything I lost tomorrow, and then I'll show you Tsunade's real gambling skills. Haha tilde, including the gentle Makoto and the well-behaved Konan. All, haha, a little bit, if Tsunade really won back, it would be a ghost. Actually, I hope you 10-10 lose more than you win. Hyuga-chan said in a low voice. Hyuga knew exactly what would happen if Tsunade won. HMPH. 30 years of Hidong, 30 years of Hexi. Just wait and see, I will definitely impress you. Tsunade, who was looked down upon by everyone, suddenly dropped such a sentence. Hyuga-chan was shocked by the classic lines that Tsunade said. Could it be that Tsunade is going to counterattack from now on and become a generation of gambling kings? It's really terrifying. I won't accompany you to lose money tomorrow, Kushina said. As soon as Kushina finished speaking, except for Terumi May, who was somewhat interested, everyone else expressed that they did not want to go to gamble with Tsunade. Originally, there was no distinction between day and night in the system space, but because of Hyuga-chan's settings, the system space was also synchronized with the outside. It was night now. Makoto and Yukiheim went to prepare dinner. Konan ran to develop frozen fruit. Hyuga-chen and the others sat and chatted. Early the next morning, Tsunade pulled Terumi May out of the system space and continued her money-losing journey. Makoto likes to be quiet, so he stays in the system space. Konan is also developing frozen fruits in the system space, and Sarah is working hard. Once a queen, Sarah was very strong. When she discovered that the youngest Terumi May was much stronger than her, Sarah's practice became more diligent. Kushina chose to follow Hyuga-chen. Now Tsunade took Terumi May to gamble. Makoto and the others stayed in the system space. Then she could live with Hyuga-chen in the two-person world. Thinking about Kushina made me excited. Hyuga-chen and Kushina left the system space and returned to Konoha's hotel room when there was a knock on the door. Chen, Are you inside? Naoki's voice sounded. Not here, Kushina exclaimed angrily. Finally getting along with Hyuga-chen alone, this guy Naoki came running without eyes, and Kushina was very upset. Why are there still women? Could it be that you can't stand your loneliness? Don't worry, I won't tell my sister. Hyuga-chen opened the door with a blank expression, and kicked him downstairs. A dog can't spit out like Kiba. Bump. Door was slammed shut by Hyuga-chen. Naoki clutched the big bag that hit his head with a depressed look on his face. Chen, you wait, I must tell my sister about this, you are finished. Naoki shouted loudly, causing dissatisfaction among other hotel guests. Feeling the murderous gazes, Naoki smiled shyly, and was about to go upstairs, but was stopped by the owner of the inn. I said, brother, you're going to lose money for what you crashed. A boss who looked to be in his 40s said, pulling Naoki's arm. Who is your brother? I'm only 18 years old. Naoki looked at the boss depressedly. He told a guest, you really like to joke, but no matter how old you are, you must pay for it. Naoki paid a sum of money depressed, and then came to Hyuga-chan's door again and knocked hard. Crunch. The door to the room opened again, and Hyuga-chen looked at him with dead fish eyes. What's the matter with you? At this time, Naoki suddenly forgot the purpose of coming to Hyuga-chen. Bump. The door slammed shut. Knock again and I'll break your third leg. The faint threatening words floated out from the inside. Naoki felt his lower body tighten, so he quickly reached out to cover it, and did not dare to continue knocking on the door. It wasn't until lunchtime when Hyuga-chen and Kushina walked out together, much to Naoki's surprise. Kushina, didn't you go to gamble with my old sister? Why are you here? Naoki asked in surprise. Space ninjutsu, learn about it. Hyuga-chen said lightly. Can't I be here? What are you doing by knocking on the door in the morning? It's hard to get along with Chen alone, but this guy actually came out to disrupt the situation. If it wasn't for Sister Tsunade's sake, he would have to beat you into a pig's head. Quote. Kushina shook his fist fiercely at Naoki, causing 587 Naoki to shrink his neck in fright. At the ninja school, there were not many in their class who were not afraid of Kushina. Her violence was comparable to that of his older sister, and Naoki was naturally afraid of Kushina. Looking at Naoki with his neck shrunk, Kushina nodded smugly. Well, what do you want to eat? I'll treat you. Naoki patted his chest and said grandly. We've already eaten, you can eat it yourself. We're going shopping. Why didn't you tell me earlier? So I'm waiting for you hungry. Naoki looked at Hyuga-chen with resentful eyes. Hyuga-chen got goosebumps when Naoki looked at it, and quickly pulled Kushina away. Naoki's resentful gaze was a bit lethal. Coming to the streets of Konoha, Kushina said. Coming to the streets of Konoha again, it is not much different from before. What can be changed? There is a ramen shop over there, let's go and have a look. Hyuga-chen pointed to a ramen not far away. This ramen is the famous Ichiraku ramen shop. What's so good about a ramen shop? We just ate and can't eat anything now. Kushina shook her head. Let's go, I can eat your share for you. Hyuga-chen pulled Kushina and entered the Ichiraku ramen shop. Kushina looked at Hyuga-chen speechlessly. Can I still eat it instead? I don't go to school, don't lie to me. Chapter 199 Obito, Rin, Kakashi. After entering, Hyuga-chen found that there were quite a lot of people inside. It seems that Ichiraku ramen is very popular. Boss, 2 bowls of tonkatsu ramen. Hyuga-chen took Kushina to a seat and called out loudly. Okay, the hand responded. Took a look at this so-called Otsutsuki Ichiraku, and then I stopped paying attention. Any Otsutsuki Ichiraku is bullshit, and he is obviously an ordinary person. The taste is quite fragrant, I don't know if it tastes good. Kushina took a deep breath and said. Looking at this business, I know that the taste should be good, but if you compare it with the dishes made by Makoto, it will not be comparable. Hyuga-chen said softly. This uncle, this aunt, can you make a table? There is no seat. A silly-looking guy wearing sunshades ran over and said. When Kushina heard the word aunt, her hair fluttered with anger. She was only 18 years old this year, and she was actually called aunt. Uncle can endure, aunt can't bear it. Hyuga-chan turned to look at this unlucky child, and at first glance, it was really unlucky child. Uchiha Obito, can you not be unlucky? I'm sorry, two brothers and sisters. Obito can't speak. I offended you. I hope you can forgive him. Nohara Rin quickly apologized. Seeing the cute little girl Rin Nohara apologized, Kushina didn't want to get angry, but she still glanced at Obito coldly, causing Obito to sweat. For the sake of this little girl, I'll let you go. If there is another time, I'll punch you in the head. Kushina said coldly. I didn't say anything wrong. Rin, why are you apologizing to them? It's amazing, Obito said stubbornly. In fact, Obito is very scared now, but he can't lose face when he loses anything, especially in front of girls he likes. Obito, stop talking. Nohara Rin was a little annoyed. I'm really sorry, I'll leave with Obito. Nohara Rin bowed and apologized to Hyuga-chen and Kushina. Forget it, there's no need for me to bother with you, brat. Kushina exhaled. Thank you, big sister. Obito, please apologize quickly. Nohara Rin looked at Obito seriously, and Obito reluctantly apologized. Humph. Hatake Kakashi, who had been silent for a while, snorted coldly, then pulled up his chair and sat down, wearing a mask and looking at everyone with dead fish eyes. Little devil, you look very ill-fated. Kushina said angrily. The current Hatake Kakashi is indeed very underwhelming, cold and arrogant, with a look of contempt. Hatake Kakashi sneered. Nohara Rin covered her head, she felt a little headache. Are all brats so arrogant now? Kushina wanted to hit someone angrily, but a kid from John's school in a mere district dared to be so arrogant, isn't he afraid of being knocked on the back? In particular, she dared to be arrogant in front of her Kushina, and she didn't inquire at the school. She was a famous school bully at the ninja school back then. Kakashi, don't be so rude. Nohara Rin whispered. However, Hatake Kakashi closed his eyes directly and looked cold. Damn, I must teach him a good lesson. Kushina stood up angrily, Yuhi's hair flying. Seeing this, Hyuga-chen stretched out his hand to hold her and persuaded. Okay Kushina, there is no need to be angry with a kid, so many people around are watching, bullying a kid is too cheap. Under the persuasion of Hyuga-chen, Kushina calmed down and sat down. Soon the noodles came up. Hyuga-chen tasted it and found that the Ichiraku ramen was not bad. However, in comparison, the dishes made by Makoto were delicious. After Kushina took a bite, she pushed it to Hyuga-chen. She was actually very full, and taking a bite was just a taste of the flavor. If it tastes good, Kushina doesn't mind eating a little longer, but the taste can only be said to be okay, so Kushina will not reluctantly eat it. Don't eat some noodles. Waste of space, Obito whispered. If it were an ordinary person, you might not hear what Obito said, but is Kushina an ordinary person? She is a super cage level super strong, so she won't be able to hear Obito. I think you need to clean up, you little brat. Kushina rudely hit Obito on the head with his chopsticks. Obito hugged his head in his hands in pain, tears streaming down his face, and he shed tears in pain. He couldn't hold back if he wanted to. Kakashi opened his eyes and glanced at Obito, his eyes full of mockery. Nohara Rin is very embarrassed. Is she apologizing to this big sister with Yuhi hair now, or comforting Obito? Humph. This is the end of the bear child. Kushina hummed softly, looking at Obito holding his head and crying. Kushina's mood improved a lot. Die yourself. Hyuga-chen shook his head, and then concentrated on eating the noodles, but while eating the noodles, he felt a look and was peeking at him. Hyuga-chen looked up and saw that it was Nohara Rin, smiled at her, and continued to fight ramen. Nohara Rin's face was Yuhi, peeking at others being discovered. His face was very embarrassed. But this big brother is really good looking and attractive. Nohara Rin also peeked uncontrollably, but he didn't expect that the peek would be discovered. Immediately afterwards, Nohara Rin couldn't help but sneak a few glances at Hyuga-chen. After all, everyone has a love for beauty. Although Nohara Rin was very careful, Hyuga-chen could still feel her gaze, and Hyuga-chen was not surprised. It was not only Nohara Rin who peeked at him, but also several female diners in the ramen shop were also peeking at him. Not only Hyuga-chen felt it, but Kushina also felt it. Kushina, who noticed it, immediately became unhappy, and the good impression of Nohara Rin in her heart disappeared. Hey Tilda, what are you peeking at my husband? Kushina hugged Hyuga-chen's arm and looked at Nohara Rin hostilely. In Kushina's heart, Hyuga-chen is a lolicon, so when facing little girls, Kushina is extra vigilant. Even the few good-looking women who peek at Hyuga-chen next to him can't make Kushina so vigilant. In Kushina's eyes, Nohara Rin is much more threatening than the women next to him. Nohara Rin's face was ashamed of Yuhi, and she could bleed. Kushina's words made her very embarrassed, and there was a mist in her eyes. Hyuga-chen raised his head and pulled Kushina, and said softly, "There's no need to eat a little girl's vinegar. That won't make you sour." "You think I think so? You pervert lolicon." Kushina rolled his eyes at him, then reached out and pinched him angrily. Hyuga-chen was speechless. When did he say that he was lolicon? He was in full control, but not only lowly. If Kushina knew what Hyuga-chen was thinking, she would definitely deal with him severely. Chapter 200 Nawaki, suspected of being gay by Kushina. Because of Kushina's words, the scene was awkward for a while. Nohara Rin lowered his head and did not speak. Obito looked at Hyuga-chen with rather unhappy eyes. Kakashi is still the same old man who is very tricky. Hyuga-chen didn't feel anything, ignoring everyone's eyes and eating noodles on his own. Soon the ramen ordered by Obito, Rin Nohara, and Kakashi came, which relieved the awkward atmosphere. After eating, Hyuga-chen suddenly felt embarrassed as soon as he took out his pocket. Tsunade took all the money and he didn't have a penny on him. "Kushina, did you bring any money?" Hyuga-chen looked at Kushina. Kushina shook her head, looked at Hyuga-chen and asked, "Didn't you bring any money?" "Don't you know that I don't have any money anymore?" Hyuga-chen asked rhetorically. Only then did Kushina remember that Tsunade had all of Hyuga-chen's money seized, and she was still enthusiastically participating at that time. "Well, if the two brothers and sisters didn't bring any money, I'll pay for you, and I'll take it as an apology," Rin Nohara said softly. "Rin, why are you paying for them?" Obito said dissatisfiedly, and at the same time looked at Hyuga-chen with hostile eyes. Looking at Hyuga-chen's little white face, he was unhappy. In his 683 feet eyes, all those who are more handsome than him, everyone is a white face. The face of Obito's hostile eyes, Hyuga-chen is not annoyed, but laments that Hokage's children are precocious, and now Obito is over 6 years old. He actually has a crush on Nohara Rin now. Originally, Hyuga-chen wanted to use yin and yang to escape and create some money out of thin air. After all, Hyuga-chen still wouldn't do such a tasteless thing as eating noodles and not giving money. But since Nohara Rin wants to help her pay, let her pay. Hyuga-chen is also reluctant to use yin and yang to make money, just like he doesn't like to use yin and yang to create food. But Hyuga-chen wouldn't let the little girl Rin Nohara pay for nothing. "If that's the case, that's fine. But I won't take advantage of you. I'll give you this kunai. It can be considered to offset the ramen money." Hyuga-chen took out a delicate kunai. The silver-white kunai, with a little golden pattern engraved on it, looks very luxurious, and this kunai is not something that is too fancy. This was purchased in the system by Hyuga-chen when he was a child. It is much sharper than ordinary kunai and can easily cut through ordinary kunai, but Hyuga-chen has never used it much. "Ah, this is too precious. I can't ask for it," Nohara Rin said quickly. "Even the worst kunai is worth more than 2 bowls of ramen, not to mention this kunai is extraordinary at first glance, not to mention 2 bowls of ramen, even hundreds of bowls of ramen may not be able to get this kunai." However, Hyuga-chen had already pulled Kushina away from the Ichiraku ramen shop, and when Nohara-rin got up to chase after him, Hyuga-chen was no longer in sight. Nohara-rin silently held the delicate kunai in his hand, intending to return it when he sees him again. Isn't it just a more beautiful kunai? I can't tell if it's good or not. It's just an ornament. I'll get you a better looking one someday. Seeing that Nohara-rin had been holding the kunai, as if it was a treasure, Obito said rather unhappily. Nohara-rin glared at him lightly, then ignored him. Obito looked blank, not knowing how to make Rin angry. Kakashi, why don't you eat? Aren't you hungry? Isn't this a waste? I'll take care of it for you. Obito reached for the ramen in front of Kakashi. Kakashi frowned, then gave Obito a cold look, got up and left the Ichiraku ramen shop. Inexplicable. Obito shook his head. I'm done eating, Obito, eat slowly. I'll go first. Rin Nohara said softly, then paid the money and left. Hey Tilda, it's my treat today, Obito shouted loudly, but Rin Nohara had already left, which made Obito quite depressed. It's all to blame for that little white face. Depressed Obito blamed everything on Hyuga-chan's head. Originally the person Obito hated the most was Kakashi, but now there is another Hyuga-chen. The point is that he still doesn't know what Hyuga-chen is called. Hyuga Tatsu and Kushina returned to the hotel. Naoki immediately came over. Why are you everywhere? It's better to stay away from Chen, or be careful I beat you. Kushina threatened viciously. Naoki looked at Kushina dejectedly, wondering how he could provoke this eldest sister. Humph, don't think that I don't know you are a pervert and like men. You better stay away from Chen, Kushina said with a cold snort. Naoki wanted to vomit blood. He didn't expect Kushina to suspect that he was gay. Even Hyuga-chen looked at Kushina with shame. You come looking for Chen all day long. It's like this now, and it was like this when you were in school. What, are you not gay? Hyuga-chen also looked at Naoki suspiciously, and at the same time couldn't help but take a few steps back and distanced himself from Naoki. This guy doesn't really have any quirks, right? It's not impossible to think. I have something to do, Naoki defended himself. Then what's the matter with you? Let's hear it. Kushina still looked at Naoki with suspicious eyes. I came to Konoha. I didn't want to meet my old friends and teachers. Now Shikaku and Minato are all on duty. Only to see Ueno-sensei. Yesterday Ueno-sensei was not at home. Today I want to go again. I came here to call Chen. Quote. Naoki explained gloomily. I see, but you are still suspicious. Kushina still didn't let go of her doubts. Naoki looked at the ceiling speechlessly. How could he explain it so that he could explain it clearly? At this time, Naoki looked at Hyuga-chen with a look of anticipation in his eyes, hoping that he could explain it to him. Actually, I also feel that you are very abnormal. Hyuga-chen looked at Naoki with a hint of vigilance. Naoki vomited 3 liters of blood, and he could swear to God that he was definitely not gay. After that, Naoki gave up a lot of strength to let Hyuga-chen and Kushina temporarily let go of their doubts, but they were still wary of Naoki in their hearts. Kushina swears that if Naoki is really gay and is plotting against Chen, then she will never care about Tsunade and will definitely label Naoki with cerebral palsy. And Hyuga-chen also decided to keep some distance from Naoki. Naoki walked in front with an unhappy face, while Hyuga Tatsu and Kushina followed. I came to the door of Ueno-sensei's house and found that it was unlocked this time. Naoki stepped forward and knocked on the door. Soon there was a sound of footsteps. Ueno-shuri opened the door, looked at the slightly familiar big man in front of him, and asked hesitantly, "Who are you?" Naoki felt that life was a little dark, and the teacher who taught him for 5 years could not recognize him. "Teacher, I'm Naoki." "You are Naoki's uncle. No wonder I look familiar, alas." Poor Naoki, this child is already. Alas. Hyuga-chen and Kushina in the back were laughing so hard that they couldn't stand up. It was so funny, especially seeing the dying expression on Naoki's face. Because of Hyuga Tatsu and Kushina's laughter, Ueno Shuri looked past Naoki to Hyuga Tatsu and Kushina, who were blocked by Naoki's large body. Chen, Kushina. Ueno Shuri's voice was a little surprised. Seeing that Ueno Shuri easily recognized Hyuga Chen and Kushina, Naoki felt even more depressed, and was about to die of depression.